This is the regular meeting of the Sunshine Ordinance Task Force, called to order at 4:05 on Wednesday, May 4th, 2016. Mr. Young, would you call the roll, please?
On the call of the roll, Member Eldon.
Here.
Eldon present. Member Wolf.
Present.
Wolf present. Member Copra absent. Member Pilpil.
Present.
Pilpil present. Member Haynes. Haynes absent. Member Fisher.
Present.
Fisher present. Member Hinsey.
Present.
Hinsey present. Vice Chair Hyland. Hyland absent. Chair Washburn.
Present.
Washburn present. We have a quorum. Regarding agenda changes, I believe there's a possibility of a continuance of item number 12 on today's agenda regarding the election of officers.
Do I hear a motion to continue this to the July 6th meeting? That would be, the new members would be sworn in. Will have attended at least one meeting.
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Is there any public comment on the motion?
Members of the task force, Ray Hartz, I would ask that my items be continued. You have 6 members, which means I would have to get 100%. And in one of those cases, at least, Mr. Pilpel has already said at the prior meeting where this was agendized that he was going to recuse himself from the one involving the Ethics Commission. I think it is unacceptable to place a burden of 100% unanimity on the complainants in these bodies, and it gives an unfair advantage to the respondents.
Members?
Session. I'm just thinking whether we should continue this to July or to the June meeting. There is a possibility that we would have new members for the June meeting, and if we don't or choose not to at the time, we could continue it again. I'm just wondering, to Member Hinsey as the maker, why we would go 2 months and not just one.
Yeah, I was wondering that myself. Is there a particular reason why Chair Washburn, you stated the July meeting?
Well, the new members will be sworn in June. Vice Chair Hyland will chair because I'll be off the task force at that time, and here he is.
I think the new members at least deserve to attend one meeting before they have to decide whether they want to run, at least get a sense of what we're about.
Mm-hmm. I think that was the reasoning. Other members?
Can you remind me which?
This is a motion to continue the matter regarding the election of officers to the Sunshine Ordinance Task Force.
That's ridiculous. We can't do that now.
Right. The question
It's
is
just a
whether
matter
we
of
do
the date.
June,
Do we want to
July.
continue it to June or July?
I would prefer July. That way people have been here and they've cooked a little bit. I don't know. What's everybody else say?
Yeah, I think.
This is open discussion. You're not going to be here.
All right, I'm out of here.
I guess I can live with it just so that Vice Chair Hyland knows, since he just came in, what we're talking about is continuing the election for 2 months to July, so presumably you would serve as acting chair for probably a month and a half.
Oh, you're not going to hold. Oh, that's right, because we're going to have a new person.
Right.
Yeah, you'd have to act. When do you think about that?
When are the Board of Soups going to review those recommendations? Is it
That'll be next week on Tuesday.
Okay, so presumably those people will be reporting to duty for the first time
In June.
next month, in June.
For the first meeting in June.
Okay.
If
So
that
actually-
happens, there still haven't been recommendations from SPJ or New California Media. So it's still too
After
Right, Josh, and then Member Wolf, then Member Fisher.
If I remember correctly, my first meeting was a voting on officers, and the process of voting on officers in an initial meeting was highly difficult to work through based on not having the outline, like the understanding of the people I was voting for. And so I do think that July is a better date than June.
Member Fisher?
I was about to say, I was about to change my vote and say, well, we should just do it in June because it might put a burden on Vice Chair Hyland because he
Through the
is
chair, I'm
putting his
happy to
hand
serve
up.
as long as necessary.
And we're good, okay.
All right.
On the motion to continue the matter to the July 6th meeting of the Sunshine Ordinance Task Force, Member Eldon.
Aye.
Eldon, aye. Member Wolf.
Aye.
Wolf, aye. Copra, absent. Member Pilpil.
Aye.
Pilpil, aye. Haynes, absent. Member Fisher.
Aye.
Fisher, aye. Member Hinsey.
Aye.
Hinsey, aye. Vice Chair Hyland.
Aye.
Hyland, aye. Chair Washburn.
Aye.
Washburn, aye. The motion passes. Is there any other continuances you wish to consider?
Well, Mr. Hartz has requested continuance of
You
his
may
items.
discuss it now, but we can't take any action until 5:30. But you may discuss it at this time. It's listed as a special order.
Special order.
I read it, I saw it, I just didn't know why.
Members?
Yeah, well, that's a good question. Why is it a is there a particular reason, Victor, why?
This is a matter that I did discuss with the chair, and this is a long-going discussion from previous hearings in regards to trying to make it more accommodating to members of the public and to the departments by trying to set other times for them to arrive instead of having them arrive at 4 o'clock and sit until 9 o'clock. We were trying to be accommodating to all parties and try to set a different time for them to show up so they wouldn't have to sit around.
But there was nothing specific to this matter.
Nothing specific to the matter, it's just a matter of timing.
Through the chair. And the complainant has requested a postponement.
Yes, he
Because
has just requested
He
postponement at the
feels-
beginning of this meeting.
Can you give reason why?
He feels the burden is too high because we only have 6.
Understood. Thank you.
And we're going to be, Member Pilpel's going to have to recuse himself from one of the... has requested to recuse himself from one of the hearings, one of the matters, and I believe Member Eldon has to leave at 7, so...
Okay, I'll make a motion to honor that request.
Well,
We can't.
Can't take the motion.
We can't take it until 5:30. Member Pilpel?
I mean, we'll get to them when we get to them. I'm not sure if I'm yet ready to approve the annual report, and I don't know how much we're going to do on the complaint procedures, so we'll try. I mean, because there was discussion about, are there any other items to continue? So I just wanted to comment on that.
Through the chair, just to be clear, did Mr. Hartz request all of his items to be continued or just a particular one?
Yes, I believe so.
All of them, because of the numbers of members that will be present to hear the matters.
Understood.
Member Wolf?
I certainly understand where Mr. Hartz was coming from, but it was really, he was speaking on public comment about the other order, and because we can't talk about this till 5, because we can't take action till 5:30, and the conversation's going to come back up again at that point, I think we should just resume that conversation when it comes up.
All right. Point well made.
Sounds good.
Mr. Young, would you call the next item on the agenda, please?
Next on the agenda, item number 2, file number 15163.
Excuse me. We've moved on to item 2. We took public comment on a motion that was made.
Next.
Item
So we're
number
moving
2,
on.
File number 15163, complaint filed by Michael Petrellis against Steve Kawa and the mayor's office for allegedly violating administrative code, section 67.21, 67.25, 67.29-7, and 67.34 by failing to completely respond to a public records request for the calendar of Chief of Staff Steve Kawa. I believe that former member Rummel has provided a revised draft order determination for your review. and additional comments were provided by the respondent, and we do have a letter from Mr. Petrellis that he asked that be placed onto the record.
Does everyone
For the
have?
chair, what is this?
This is a paper copy of
Of 151, of item 2?
item 2.
Is it different from what I read?
No, it's the same, but this
There are a
is,
couple other things added.
right, and this is a very complex matter, high-profile matter, so I hope that you've had an opportunity to read the proposed order of determination.
Madam Chair?
Just for the public's concern, a copy of Mr. Petrellis' statement is available, and it's on the table for distribution. And all members of the task force have received a copy.
Mr. Petrellis has requested that we read this aloud.
Would you like me to do that?
Yes, if you please.
The following is a statement submitted by the complainant, Mr. Petrellis, submitted today at 1:08 p.m. My complaint against the mayor's office and its chief of staff, Steve Kawa, destroying public records should continue to move forward. Even though I'm not present at today's SOTF meeting, I expect the mayor will have representatives ready to address the task force whose members are more than prepared to hold the mayor accountable. It's asking too much of this complainant to attend 3 or more hearings about a single complaint in order to have a matter resolved with records produced and sunshine policies upheld. Transparency is not served by a drawn-out adjudication process that stretches over 3 or 4 months and may continue at the next SOTF meeting. Heck, if this matter is eventually forwarded to the Ethics Commission, my preference is for it to be sent there soon so their adjudication process can start relatively soon. If a question arises that only I can address, don't hesitate to call me on my cell phone. I'll be available for telephonic communications from 4 p.m. on. Let the sun shine in.
All right. We've actually heard this matter. We've revisited this matter. At our request, former member Rummold drafted the original proposed order of determination. He then, after our last meeting, did some additional work on it. It's fully annotated. It's a very complete analysis. And again, I hope that you've been able to look it over. I appreciate having a paper copy. So I'm wondering now, I would like to entertain some ideas about how to complete our work this afternoon on this matter. Members?
Madam Chair?
Member Pilpel.
So yes, we have some discussion to be had and decisions to make. We heard from Mr. Petrellis in absentia. Could we perhaps hear from the respondent, the mayor's office, and then maybe or maybe not hear public comment if there's anyone that wants to weigh in on how we should proceed, and then we can discuss and figure out what to do.
Okay. So at this time, I see some representatives from the mayor's office. We had requested, actually, that Chief of Staff Steve Kawa attend. Is he here? No, I'm here on his behalf. Okay. Would you please come forward? This is your opportunity to address us on this matter again.
Members of the task force, Carl and Nasita, thanks for your time today. Steve asked that I attend on his behalf since I manage his calendar and have done so for the past couple of years. I don't have anything additional to say other than that we would refer you back to the city attorney's letter to you dated March 30th, which more thoroughly expresses their advice to us and to you in this matter, and they do so better than I probably could. So, unless you have any questions.
Members, do you have any questions for Mr. Nasita? Okay, seeing none, the matters, at this time, is there any public comment on this matter? We don't yet have a motion, but if anyone has any ideas to share with us as we deliberate about what to do, now's your time. You have up to 3 minutes.
I have a question. If you're going to have this public comment now and then you make a motion, are we going to be allowed public comment on the motion?
Yes,
Right.
yes.
Ray Hartz, Director, San Francisco Open Government. I think the task force is heading in the right direction. Mr. Kawa, in my opinion, and I'll clearly say it, is not here because he doesn't want to be in the awkward position of trying to explain his own behavior. He is a well-paid member of the city government. He works directly for the mayor, and as such has an impact over multiple city bodies and city agencies. He is an intelligent person, I would assume, gets a good salary, and would be smart enough to know that deleting his calendar for whatever reason is contrary to the intent and purposes of not only the Sunshine Ordinance, but the California Public Records Act. I think I have read this through, and I believe that his violation was both knowing and willful. Giving someone direction to delete calendars after 2 weeks is clearly not in line with any law that I'm familiar with, and is obviously questionable as far as the ordinance and the task force has determined so far, and I believe also the California Public Records Act. I've mentioned this before. If this kind of behavior is allowed, there would be nothing at all to prevent members of the Board of Supervisors and other elected officials from simply delegating their calendar to an aide and simply saying, well, because the aide is not subject to this law, they can delete my calendar after 2 weeks, and that public record can go bye-bye. It is basically something that aggravates me a lot. We get people who appear before this body, and they are intelligent people who've worked for the city for a long time. They know what their obligations are under the law, both local and state, and yet they will then come in and do things which they know are in violation. And again, that's what I believe is Mr. Kawa is not here because if someone asked him directly, do you believe that what you did violated the law, he would have a hard time saying no. And he would have an exceptionally hard time trying to explain the rationale why deleting records that the public has a right to access is in any way acceptable, and why he chose to direct city employees to violate the law. And that's what he did. When he directed his aide to delete his calendar after 2 weeks, he was directing that person to violate the ordinance and the California Public Records Act. It's bad enough when somebody does it themselves, but when they direct other city employees who are under their control to do it for them, I think it places them in a bad position, and it is unlawful.
Mr. Warfield?
Good afternoon. I'm Peter Warfield, Executive Director of Library Users Association. We're not a party to this and are not particularly familiar. So let me say, first of all, I'm glad you're taking this forward without the complainant present. I actually think that's an issue that you need to take up with your complaint procedures. There's no reason why a complainant must be present according to the rules that you have. In some cases, I don't even think it's necessary when there's an open and shut clarity about a complaint for the complainant to be even present at any time when there's documentation, for example. So I'm glad you're going forward with this. I'm disappointed that in the previous discussion you wouldn't discuss a scheduling matter rather than the substance of the matter, and therefore for those people who come in a few minutes late, they might be thinking that Ray Hartz's things are going to go forward when clearly you intend for them not to. And I think you have an obligation to say when there are agenda changes what those are or might be. I'm also disappointed that the agenda here doesn't show exactly what's going on, which is that you have an order of determination for a violation. And that's very significant, but it's nowhere evident from the item. So since nobody has said what it is, it's an order of determination, as you say, carefully written by Mr. Rummold. Accordingly, we conclude that Mr. Kawa's destruction of his calendar constituted a, quote, willful failure, unquote, to discharge the, quote, duties imposed by the Sunshine Ordinance, unquote. And we refer the matter to the Ethics Commission for its review. See Section 67.34. And the order is, it says it, next to last paragraph, decision and order of determination. The task force finds that the mayor's office violated Section 67.29-7 for failure to maintain and preserve Mr. Kawa's calendar in a professional and businesslike manner. The task force further finds Mr. Kawa violated Administrative Code, Sunshine Ordinance, Section 67.21 for failure to respond to a request for records in a complete manner, and that the violation was willful under Section 67.34. So I'm doing what I think the agenda should at least have summarized. I do know that and appreciate that you enclosed this order of determination with the agenda packet. And so I certainly think that you should go forward with this matter in the way that you think, and Mr. Rummold, being an attorney from Electronic Frontier Foundation, I think is likely to have done a careful and thorough job that I would recommend you follow. Thank you.
Quick question. Has Member Rummold resigned on hiatus?
Yes, he resigned, right. Okay.
He did so orally. He's not done so in writing. Sorry.
Right, he did so here at the, right. You had left, yeah. Okay. Dr. Kerr.
Yes, good afternoon, Dr. Derek Kerr. I appreciated former member Rummold's revision of the order of determination. I think it's excellent, and it upholds the whole reason that you exist, to shed light, even in the face of opposition from the city attorney's office. So I think that moving this issue forward and finding a violation would show political courage, because in the past, when this body did not obey the opinions of the city attorney's office, they were purged. Members were just eliminated, and shills and lackeys were appointed in their stead. So have faith, stand up for sunshine no matter what, and move this issue forward. Thank you very much.
Is there additional public comment on the matter? Okay, the matter is with the task force for questions for deliberation. Member Pilpel.
All right, I will try to be brief. I've been asked to be brief.
You have been.
Give him the time.
Should have been suggested a long time ago. So I've opined on this before. I think the questions before us are whether there's a violation of 67.21, 67.29-7, or 67.34. I think I've previously said I am with a 67.21 violation for failure to provide the requested calendar entries. For whatever reason, it appears that a 67.25 violation isn't being contemplated at this time. I think I've already said that I'm not with a 29-7 violation. I find that that's a pretty high bar for me to find that records were not maintained in a professional and businesslike manner. And for various reasons, I don't think that this violation was willful. So I'm not with 67.34, and I'm not with a referral to the Ethics Commission. In part, I think that the mayor's office was either provided advice or checked with the city attorney, and so was advised that the practice that they were using was lawful. We may disagree with that, but I think they were in part operating under legal advice. And because we've heard from the mayor's office that they are willing to change their practice, they've been here several times. They haven't said, we're not going to change. This is how we're doing business. They, I think, pretty readily said we're willing to look at this again, and in fact, we're going to keep these entries. So that shows to me a willingness to cooperate, and for my purposes, doesn't suggest that the violation is willful. I think the crux of this is whether we find that a city official who is not subject to the 29-5 calendar requirement, if they keep a calendar for any purposes that include city business, whether that calendar is subject to some retention period or is simply made for the convenience of the person and not subject to any retention requirement. I believe that it is most like a Prop G calendar, and therefore, if someone chooses to keep it, and they're not required to keep it, but if they choose to keep a calendar, that they should keep those calendar entries for a minimum of 2 years. So that's where I come down on the thing. The problem I'm having with this is that we have only one proposed order of determination, and I would ask that the question be divided if we're going to deal with all this, and if we don't find the 67.34 in particular, then I think the thing is going to need to be rewritten, and I'm not sure how we go about that in the absence of Member Rummel. I'll stop there. Thanks.
With all due respect, Member Pilpel, did you read Member Rummel's order of determination?
I did. The original version and the revised version.
Okay.
Josh, and then
Member Wolf?
I find your logic on I find Member Pilpel's logic on the willful violation to be problematic. If you're pulling on your little sister's hair and then your mother tells you to stop it and you do, it didn't make it not a willful act that you were committing. I think that when you describe how the city attorney gave advice that this was lawful, just by looking at the response, the city attorney still takes the position that this is lawful, and I think that we can't just sort of defer problematic legal advice from the city attorney as exonerating violations as no longer being lawful because they were under the advice of the city attorney. If there's a way that we could actually refer the city attorney to ethics because of the advice, I would be in favor of doing that, but I don't see a structure that allows that to happen. And so essentially the mayor's office chose to follow the advice of the city attorney, and I think we have to hold them accountable to that. The only part of I like the way the order of determination was written, and it's interesting to sort of read the response. I don't really feel that I have the legal mind to fully take it apart, and I don't know whether that's our job or whether that should be handed to ethics to then look at. But the only part that does give me some concern is the case from 1977 of Los Angeles Police Department versus Superior Court. There does seem to be some case law argument that the retention of records is not part of the Public Records Act, which if there isn't conflicting case law, which there may be, that seems like an area that any future revisions of the Sunshine Ordinance need to certainly address.
Chair.
Member Fisher?
Yeah, I'm really torn on this. I mean, I read Member Rummel's OD, I read the information from the city attorney, and I mean, we have two people that are a lot smarter than me that are saying different things. I mean, I did not go to law school, so I'm reading through this, and I'm really torn. Maybe I watch too much Law and Order on TV, but it feels like we have, one lawyer here, another lawyer here, and maybe we're supposed to be the judges that are going to rule on this. And I'm not a big fan of sending things to ethics unless they're actually unethical or there's an ethics issue. But I think somebody else needs to take a look at this, and maybe so. As I'm recommending sending this to ethics, I'm not recommending it as a punitive measure. We have a new ethics executive director. We've all met her. She's sitting in the back of the room. She's got a lot of really good experience. Maybe she might have something to say about this, or her commission might have something to say. I just think we need another opinion. We've got, two opinions, and I don't see the problem with asking for a third. Again, I'm not doing it as a punitive measure, but I would like to hear it, and maybe what ethics has to say moving forward might be, for lack of a better term, the new precedent and something that we could refer to in the future. So I got no problem sending this on.
Okay. Vice Chair Hyland.
I agree with Member Fisher, and I'd like to point out that, especially for the newer members of the task force, a lot of what we do is we are a marker. We set the record. We acknowledge that something has happened, even if nothing may result from that, and that has been the result sometimes. We need to put the mark on the wall that this has happened. And I think given the complexity of this and the fact that the Ethics Commission will review this as a de novo case, this is exactly the type of case that we need to send up to ethics. I would ask Member Pilpel to maybe live up to the lightning rod reputation that he painted so vividly for us at the Rules Committee and take a brave stance on this, because I think this is important enough, and this might be the tip of the iceberg as far as other documents and other types of media down the future that may or may not be subject to records retention. I think this is a very landmark type case, and just to say, oh well, the city attorney told them to do that, therefore we give them a pass. Well, we don't know what the city attorney told them. There's this retention policy, which again, it's a very loose reading of it to say something as important as a high-level official's calendar is merely for his convenience. I think there's much more information there that the public has a right to be able to IDR. So I think we put a lot of time into this case. We've discussed it. We have Member Rummels put a lot of time into writing this and crafting this document, and I think this is ready to go all the way to ethics. That's my position.
Member Eldon, did you want to speak to this?
I don't believe I was there on April 6th, but I've read through the documents, and I generally agree with the sentiment here, which is there are a lot of questions. We've taken a thorough look. Most people on the committee have serious issues with it. Everyone on the committee has at least some issues. I am ready to go along with the order of determination and send it to ethics.
Okay, I wanted to just say a few things. This particular case, I'm recalling the night we first heard it, and in my 8 years serving on this body, I had never seen such a reaction from members of the task force. You were practically speaking over each other, trying to figure out what had happened here. This is a big deal, this case, and there were so many issues that we really wanted to make sure we got it right. We wanted to learn as much as we could. And so Member Rummel wrote one lengthy order of determination, then at our request went back and worked on it some more. This has been in the Chronicle. Like I said, it's a big deal. And one issue here that's important is that this body is charged by the ordinance with interpreting the ordinance. And we have attorneys, and in this case, we made use of the legal minds that we had, and I believe that this sort of determination, it seems to represent most of your thinking about this. It certainly does mine. And the city attorney may have another interpretation, but as Member Fisher said, that's one attorney. We have another attorney. And our own experience and the hearings that we've held on this and that we've thought about. So, and also the other principle is whenever there's competing opinions about sunshine, it's also the charge of this body to make decisions that support more rather than less sunshine. And so if it's ever gray, then it really is incumbent on us to come down on the side of more sunshine, more transparency, more accountability. And this particular matter is all about accountability and transparency. And I think Member Rummel's order of determination is, very thorough in making the case for why we should find violations on the three parts of the ordinance. Sir,
May I?
Member Pilpel, make it brief.
Yeah, just to respond in part to Vice Chair Hyland's comments, I do take this seriously. I'm not saying that there wasn't a violation. In fact, I do believe, as I said, that there was a violation of 67.21. I just personally don't believe that it was willful, and others may disagree. And if the order issues, so be it. There's at least one typo at the beginning that has the wrong date, so I think at a minimum we should authorize that the typos be fixed. I think every time we make a decision, in particular difficult decisions, the credibility of the task force is on the line. And while we may feel that we're right and that we're reading the law in a certain way, unfortunately, I don't think that we can make up the law. I think we can interpret the law, but if the law doesn't say something, I don't see that we can sort of insert our own view of the world on the plain language that's there. So again, I think that the requirements, that we look at the facts and the requirements and see how they square. And so I'm just not with the willful or the 29-7.
Member Fisher and then Vice Chair Hyland.
Yeah, this is a question, well, maybe it's a three-way question to Chair Washburn, Mr. Clerk, and Mr. Cola. I've been on this body 4 years, and I think I've only ever sent one case to ethics. So, my question, I'm picking up on what Member Pilpel said that sort of resonated. It's we're not, making laws, interpreting laws. I'm looking at this as, I've got two different opinions here that do not match, and I can't make a judgment on this. So, and Mr. Cola, maybe you can answer this. Isn't this avenue that when the Sunshine Ordinance says, as Allison says, this doesn't look good, we want to put more sunshine on it? I mean, aren't we basically, by going to ethics, going to a, quote, higher authority? That's totally interrogative, not rhetorical. Do you have the answer to that, or Mr. Cola? Unfortunately, Ms. Pelham's in the back of the room, but she can't answer that.
I'm not really sure where the question was and what you said. So you want to know whether or not it's worth it to refer to ethics just to resolve the dispute between the two competing opinions?
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. I mean, I'd like to hear what they have to say, because I'm torn. I'm looking at two different opinions here, and I don't know.
I leave that up to the task force. In my experience, serving the task force, I've only seen referrals to ethics in cases where they thought that there was willful misconduct or a willful violation. In this instance, the fact that you have two competing opinions,
it's seeming
I think
obvious.
it gives a little bit more credibility to the argument that it wasn't willful if they were following advice from the city attorney. I mean, following wrong advice doesn't negate a violation, but it negates willfulness if you didn't think that if you thought what you were doing was right.
Although the facts of the matter is we don't know what the city attorney told Steve Caba and his staff before this matter reached us. In retrospect, they were building a case for why this wasn't a violation. We don't know what they were told beforehand. Vice Chair Hyland and then Member Wolf.
Just to build on that, you could almost say that it's the mayor's retention policy that we're maybe sending up to ethics as well as part of all this. Because if that's what they're falling back on, well, then perhaps that needs to be examined. And is that in our purview? I'm not sure it is. But I think it might be on the Ethics Commission, might be able to flesh that out a little bit more. As DCA Cola said, if they were leaning on that and felt they were doing right by that, there's still a question as to our interpretation of that as being willful. I think looking at 6734, I think it's actually kind of a narrow description. I'd like to see something, I'd like to be able to send it up to ethics with the highest attention, as a willful violation, but maybe we could add a note afterwards saying that this is the crux of the matter. It's in our, it's in our notes. We realize, this is new. I don't think any case like this has come up before. Although I know calendars have probably been around for some time, but in this deletion issue, as the ordinance states, it's black and white. Is it willful or not? That's what we have to rule on. I wish we had a bit more leeway within there. Maybe we can add comments with the order of determination and the 6734. Going back to what Member Fisher said. Sending this up for your highest attention, et cetera, and it fits, in our opinion, 6734. They're going to rule on it their own way anyway, and look at this from scratch, so to speak.
That's true. It will be a de novo hearing. Member Wolf.
I don't really know how to navigate the willful thing, because in essence, if anything that the city attorney says that you should do makes it not willful, and the city attorney's advice has attorney-client privilege, we can't actually ever go after the city attorney for giving bad advice, so that essentially, in the event that there is a bad actor there, not saying that there is in the sentence, but in the event that there was, there's this inoculation there based on this setup that I find highly problematic. But the reason that I think we definitely should refer it to ethics, and whether we call it willful or not, at the end of the day doesn't really matter, because the Ethics Commission is going to make their own determination, is the very reason that the city attorney is arguing against the order of determination, when in the second paragraph they state that, well, this case involves Mr. Cava and the mayor's office specifically. It has broad ramifications for city government generally. For those same reasons that this has overreaching significance, I think we need to finalize it through the ethics process in order to seek clarity on this issue.
I wanted to, points well made. I wanted to refer members to former member Rummel's notes, it's footnote number 7. He talks about that if the city attorney, if the city attorney gives advice on how the sunshine, it's the next to last page.
Page 9.
So if departments go to the city attorney and the city attorney interprets the ordinance in a particular way, then we would never be able to find anybody ever in violation of any part of the ordinance, or, have it be willful. So the way we've operated always is that we're a body charged, as I said, with interpreting the sunshine ordinance, and our interpretation is something that we can put forward and stand behind and provide evidence in support of our decisions. And it's something to be considered. And we've gotten city departments to change how they do things by the way we interpret the ordinance. So, and if we can never find anyone having committed a willful violation, the ordinance says we can. So if the respondent is always going to say, well, the city attorney said it was okay, then, and we go along with that, then we'll never find a willful violation. So this Ethics Commission may not agree with us, but, this is a case. I think it's a very important one, and I think it's one that we've agonized over, we've thought about a great deal, and we can say this is how we're thinking about it. This calendar is a calendar for a very important city official, and it's a record of the city's business on behalf of the public that was being conducted, and the record of these activities were being destroyed after 2 weeks. Who does that? Who does that? And the reason we were given, we thought was ridiculous. We found, that it was for general organization and housekeeping, that electronic records were being deleted. So that's my rant. My one last rant, probably. Member Fisher, and then Vice Chair Hyland, and then, okay, Member Fisher.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair Washburn. That's exactly, that should help us. I think you put your finger on that very last page. Member Wolf, you were struggling with the willful part. Member Pilpel also, as a practical matter, under the Ethics Commission's current narrow definition, we find it unlikely that a willful violation will ever occur. I think a happy ancillary result of pushing this all the way up with the willful violation might be that between the Ethics Commission and us, we can maybe flesh out a more robust definition of willful violation. This might be part of some of the changes that we're talking about for the charter down the road, because that's what I was struggling with. They're giving us such a narrow definition that it's hard to stick to that. And also for the members on the task force that haven't been here as long as we have, when we did send things up to Ethics Commission, sometimes they were never heard. They just were parked there. I think sending it up as a willful violation will give it the attention it deserves. And it deserves to be a 6734, I believe. So I think that's yet another argument that we should go ahead with the order determination as we have it. I'm happy to put a motion to that effect with the spelling corrections that Member Pilpel will no doubt identify for us shortly, and then we can possibly even take a vote on maybe the two parts that we're all in agreement on, as well as 6734, or break it into 3 different votes.
Okay, well, I want to hear from Member Fisher, and then I want to call the question and have somebody make a motion. So, Member Fisher, real quickly.
Knowing what I know about the city, this ordinance, the way things go, I have a feeling that City Attorney Herrera did not write this. It was written by Burke Delventhal, and he's very good at what he does. And I have a feeling, knowing what I do know, that this is probably going to hold up under the letter of the law, really. And the best we could do is maybe try and inject some spirit of the law on this, because there's got to be 7 or 8 other people in this city that are going to say the same thing that Chair Washburn just said, like, who does this? What is this all about? So even if it comes back that, per legal requirement 67, blah, 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 this is completely well, we tried. So that's why I have a feeling that everything in the city attorney's letter is probably legally correct, but I still think this needs to move on and have somebody else take a look at it, even if nothing else, just to get some attention on it. That's all I got.
And then there's Member Rummold, who's also an attorney, and what he says
I hear you. Yeah.
is different and compelling. All right.
It's like all the rabbis.
I believe we currently have a motion from Vice Chair Hyland to adopt the motion, the order of determination.
Not quite. I was thinking how to best craft that. And I'd like to sort of, we can vote on 3 different ways, but I'd rather build a consensus on what we're all agreed upon. And perhaps, Member Pilpel, having heard the discussion, what is your position now? And with that comes a request to be brief.
Is inherent. I think the best course is to either make 3 separate motions or make a single motion to find a violation of 67.21, 29-7, and 34. I would then ask that they be divided, and so we can vote on them separately. And then, depending on how that goes, I think the order would be either amended or drafted, and we would grant authorization to the chair or the vice chair to package the order with the appropriate attachments and documents and forward
that's
that to
reasonable.
the Ethics Commission.
Okay, and then maybe take a secondary vote on 6734.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think
Afterwards.
there would be sort of 3 votes there.
Okay, so maybe flesh out the first, the actual violations, work out, vote on those.
I think
Okay.
the first one, in my view, would be 67.21. And do you want to move that? You want me to move that? I mean, I'm with that, and I think that makes sense as a starting point.
Okay, well, is it 2 out of 3 that we're probably going to, vote on, or I mean, we can.
I think we vote on all 3 individually.
Right, individually.
Okay, somebody, I want a motion.
Okay, you want a motion? I'll move that we find a violation of 67.21. Doesn't preclude future motions, but at least is to find a violation of 67.21.
Chopping this thing up?
We are.
Looks like we're chopping it up. Do I hear a second?
Before we do that, can I just understand, if we chop it up, does that affect if and how it goes to the Ethics Commission?
No, it does not. Only one order of determination will go forward.
Okay.
And it would just say at the end how the votes were on the individual things.
Member Wolf?
Wouldn't it actually be better procedure to make the motion of the complete thing and then divide that motion as opposed to making
That's fine, too.
additive motions?
That's fine. I got no problem with that.
So the motion as is that we have from Member Rummold?
Right.
Why not just do the full motion? We have the votes.
Yeah, let's,
Okay.
Anybody in this room knows that.
Yeah.
Vice Chair Hyland?
What was that, DCA call? You mentioned something? There we go. So I'll make a motion to adopt as is, as we've put out in this document.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, at this time, I'd like to hear public comment on the motion to,
I believe it's to adopt the order of determination as, and that will include a referral to the Ethics Commission, is my
right,
assumption.
right.
Okay.
So we're finding violation of 67.21, 67.29-7, 67.34. This would go to the Ethics Commission because there is a finding of willful violation of the ordinance. So,
I think it's those 3. I think it's adopting the order and making the referral.
right, that's,
And
the
then
order
I-
specifies
That's
that.
fine.
Okay, at this time, I'd like to hear public comment on the motion.
Members of the task force, Ray Hartz, Director, San Francisco Open Government, I'd like to say I think you're heading in the right direction. To Member Wolf's comment about holding the city attorney responsible, Section 6721, subsection I of it says basically the San Francisco City Attorney's Office shall act to protect and secure the rights of the public of San Francisco, people of San Francisco to access public information and public meetings, and shall not act as legal counsel for any city employee or any person having custody of any public record for the purposes of denying access to the public. Of the 24 orders of determination I hold one against Deputy City Attorney Paula Jessen for violating that exact section of the ordinance. Because I made public records request of the library, which they dragged out over more than a year's period. I twice petitioned the supervisor of records in the city attorney's office. Both petitions were denied, even though Mr. Herrera continued to drag his heels for more than a year. And basically, the city attorney's advice is hearsay. We get people coming here all the time saying the city attorney told us this and the city attorney told us that. One question that was raised was the idea of privilege. Yes, the city attorney can raise the privilege and say, well, I'm not going to disclose something I advise them to do. But as the person who was given the advice, they are certainly free to waive the privilege and produce any written documents or any information they have saying that the city attorney actually advised them. And they have chosen not to do that. So basically, what we have is we have only them claiming this is what the city attorney told us. Nothing more. Now, I believe that the city attorney's responsibility under this law and under any law in the city is to ensure that the laws are not violated by ensuring that members of city government, including all of its bodies, follow the law. Rather, what it turns out to be is the city attorney spends his time trying to get people off the hook after the fact. And I think that is unfortunately what this appears to me to be. It is simply, go in there and tell them I told you that it was okay. Do the attorney-client privilege. And if anybody should raise the issue that you're the client, and if you want to, you can produce this document. For God's sake, don't give it to them. In fact, I'd be surprised if there is a document. You never put anything in writing that's going to come back and bite you in the rear later on. The city attorney always advises that they didn't do anything wrong. Always. I have yet to hear a single case or a single legal opinion at this or any other body where the city attorney simply said, yes, they broke the law.
Thank you. Is there additional public comment on the motion?
Peter Warfield. First of all, I'd like to say I support the motion. Second, this is not a case of this attorney said this and that attorney said that. These are not equally disinterested attorneys. The city attorney who is supporting the city agency has a very clear duty and a very clear interest in doing whatever it takes to make that party sound like everything they're doing is right. Your attorney and your body doesn't have an interest in this. And so I wouldn't say, oh, well, gee, one side said this and one side said that. It's not equal in terms of where they're coming from and what their motives are. Second, with respect to the previous speaker, I agree entirely with what he has said. In the distant sands of time, people, myself included, talked about the section, which I don't have in front of me, that says, the section of the Sunshine Ordinance that says the city attorney shall not use his resources to, and I'm paraphrasing, to support the withholding of documents. And that is something that I think is ripe and overripe for this body to take up. Mr. Hartz is providing me with the exact section of 67.21, section I. The San Francisco City Attorney's Office shall act to protect and secure the rights of the people of San Francisco to access public information and public meetings, and shall not act as legal counsel for any city employee or any person having custody of any public record for purposes of denying access to the public. That's a very clear statement of what the duty is of the city attorney. And the city attorney, I think, has repeatedly violated that as a matter of routine. So I think this is an important matter. This is something that you've worked on. And I certainly hope that you go forward with this presumably carefully worked out order of determination for all of the reasons that you've discussed and some of the reasons that we have brought up from the public. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there additional public comment? Okay, seeing none. Mr. Young, would you call the?
Would someone like to divide the question?
Yeah, I would like to divide the question so that we vote on 67.21 first and then the balance of the motion.
We will divide out the question of 6721 at this time, and the remaining portion will be voted on separately.
Okay.
On the motion,
I just wanted to make sure. I thought we were going to vote on all of it at once.
we are voting. The motion is to approve all items. However, any member of the task force may divide a portion of the question out to be voted on separately. However, once it is voted upon, only one motion will be sent to the, or one finding will be sent to the Ethics Commission.
That's fine.
Through the chair. If that piece doesn't go through, at least the rest of it stays intact.
Got it. Okay.
I think is the reasoning here.
Got it.
Yeah.
Got it.
On the question regarding violation of section 67.21, this.
Yeah, as it's written, 6721 for failure to respond to records requests for records in a complete manner. Yeah.
There's an A, B, C, D, you know.
Well, in our
big chunky.
The way it's proposed is just 67.21.
Yeah, the way it's written. Yeah. But
Guy is into height.
good catch.
Somebody said.
On that motion, Member Eldon.
Yes.
Eldon, aye. Member Wolf.
I'm
Wolf, aye. Copra, absent. Member Pilpil.
Aye.
Pilpil, aye. Haynes, absent. Member Fisher.
Aye.
Fisher, aye. Member Hinsey. Hinsey, aye. Vice Chair Hyland.
Aye.
Hyland, aye. Chair Washburn.
Aye.
Washburn, aye. Regarding the remainder of the motion, which is 27. That's 27.29-7, 67.34.
And to adopt the order and make the referral. The rest of the motion was to adopt the order and to make the referral to the Ethics Commission.
Yes.
Well, isn't that to the call of the chair? What happens with it? Through the chair?
No, we can adopt the order of determination as it's written,
Okay.
which is to refer, yeah.
All right.
On the remainder of the order of determination, Member Eldon.
Aye.
Eldon, aye. Member Wolf.
Aye.
Wolf, aye. Copra, absent. Member Pilpil.
No.
Pilpil, no. Haynes, absent. Member Fisher.
Aye.
Fisher, aye. Member Hinsey. Hinsey, aye. Vice Chair Hyland.
Aye.
Hyland, aye. Chair Washburn.
Aye.
Washburn, aye. The motion passes with Member Pilpil voting no. This matter, I assume that the chair will be authorized to make minor clerical changes and to provide any letters for referral to the Ethics Commission.
Okay, so Member Pilpil, you noted some
Typos.
a date,
Yeah,
problem with the date.
The date at the beginning, that was the most glaring thing. I think at the end, the names on the referral should be clear. I mean, we refer to them as Kirsten and Carl, but they have real names.
Right, yeah,
That sort of
yeah, okay.
And I mean, if there's anything else you want me to look at here, I'm happy to, but I think it's important to get this out on a timely basis.
Right, no, so please get your
Okay.
edits to Mr. Young.
Okay. I mean, if we could do this in the next week, that might be nice.
No, absolutely, yeah.
Actually, can we just do the edits now? And I mean, it's just a
Well,
couple of things.
I wanted to move on because I know.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I don't
Member-
want this. I don't want this to languish. In
Right,
any
Member
shape or form.
Pilpil, do it
Yeah, I
right
don't
away.
have much more.
Okay,
More?
all right. But we need to move on, so.
And I assume that is my assumption that the committee is authorizing the chair to refer this matter to the Ethics Commission.
That was part of the motion.
That was part of the motion.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is general public comment. 5 o'clock.
Oh, 5 o'clock.
Former Task Force Chair Doug Comstock.
Hello. It's been a while. It's a real emotional experience to be here. Because I spent so many years here.
It's good to have you back.
Thank you. What a valuable job you do, and how valuable our wonderful public commenters are. Anyway, what I wanted to talk about was Allison Washburn's last meeting. We at the San Franciscans for Sunshine occasionally bestow a little token of our appreciation when people leave, and we would like to do that with your indulgence. To have Allison come over here, and we would like to present her with something. Dr. Kerr will make the presentation. He's also a member of San Franciscans for Sunshine, and I just want to get a little photograph with your indulgence, and then we'll be done with it. Thank you.
Let's go take that picture too. I'll get it, guys.
I got it here. I got it on video.
I'll send this to you, Victor, and you can flip it around to everybody.
All right.
Yay.
she's the longest serving, right? Yeah.
Yep.
Consecutive years. Right now, like this table.
Oh, no. Yeah.
We all start at the same time.
Yeah.
Three of us.
Bruce President served for 10 years consecutively.
I have a little something, just in case you get hungry. It says, the shoulda had a Snickers. This says rebellious on it. So I just want you to remember and think of us and, be your rebellious little self.
Oh.
And you might be eating that in about an hour. Probably.
Yeah, I know. You guys have bailed me out on some evenings when it's 10:30 and I'm not able to think anymore.
I saw that
haven't been
today.
able to think anymore for several hours.
Well, I saw that and thought of you, and how apropos.
Well, this is great. I didn't know that. So this is like a Snicker. Oh, it's Snickers, but
Yeah,
yeah.
they put cute little things on it. I have one more for. It says sleepy on it, so whoever starts nodding off is going to be getting this one.
Members of the task force, Ray Hartz, Director, San Francisco Open Government. Obviously, all of you know that my interactions with this task force have been stormy. That's the best word I could probably use. But there is one thing that I am 100% assured of, and that is the work and hard effort that Allison Washburn has put in as chair. There is an old expression that people of goodwill can disagree, and she and I at times may disagree on process or other issues, but I think there is no denying that she has put immense amounts of time and energy and effort into trying to move the task force in the right direction and to do a lot of the work of the task force, which unfortunately, from my past knowledge, a lot of times gets dumped on the chair, and there's sort of intermittent support from other members of the task force. So I would like to thank her for her service. I would like to apologize for things that I said which probably were taken as condemnation or contradiction or whatever it happened to be. Not that I'm saying that I was wrong, but simply the fact that we disagree. And I think that honestly, like I said, people of goodwill can disagree at times. So thank you for your service. Good luck in whatever else you move on to. And I'll be honest with you, you were one of the few people I've seen at any boards and commissions that I would not mind seeing appointed to another board or commission.
Thank you.
Peter Warfield, I guess as a point of information, I haven't understood whether this is your last meeting as chair, and is this your last meeting as a member of the Sunshine Task Force, or what?
This is my last meeting, and I explained that at the last meeting. I think everybody had gone home. But actually, my seat will be filled by another member of the League of Women Voters who happens to be an attorney, and her name is Luam Safai, and you may have seen her around here from time to time. I met with her almost 2 years ago when she expressed interest in coming onto this body, and she sort of shadowed me, and she's extraordinarily well prepared to take over, and so I think it will be more than seamless to have her sit in my stead.
So that's if she is approved by the full board,
Right.
which is probably a foregone conclusion. But if
Probably.
she's not, would it still be your last meeting here? Or
Yeah, it will be.
okay. So I would like to echo some of the things that Ray Hart said. You, I think, have been one of the fairer-minded and more respectful folks, maybe most respectful folks that I've experienced in well over double the time of your tenure coming to task force meetings, and I appreciate that. We certainly haven't agreed on everything, and there have recently been some things that I'm very unhappy about, but as the previous speaker, Ray Hart, said, people of goodwill can certainly disagree on particulars at particular times, and I appreciate very much the good work and the hard work that you have contributed to this effort. With respect to other matters, I want formally to request a hearing on the complaint that Library Users Association filed and was not given. And I'm sorry to say I don't have the exact number, but that was one where you evidently used a decision of your administrator under rules that don't exist and, in fact, are proposed but haven't been approved. And, in fact, at the time of this refusal to have a hearing, which I believe is my right under the law, which requires hearings when people request them. So I'd like to formally say that I would like to have the hearing to which I'm entitled under the law and which I was denied. Library Users was denied. Second, I'd like to say that I think it's really a disservice to the public to agendize the discussion of your complaint procedures over and over and over again. I believe it's been 9 months since I first saw it on September agenda, and most of the times there hasn't been any discussion at all. Furthermore, it hasn't been broken up as to what section or what portions you want to talk about, so that it's left the public to sit till 9 o'clock at night, typically, only to find out there's no action, no discussion, no nothing. I think that's very wrong, and it should be corrected. Also should be first item as old business. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there additional public comment? Okay. I just wanted to say thank you so much to San Franciscans for sunshine. I had no idea, and I really appreciate the honor, the token, as you call it, and I also appreciate what the members of the public had to say, and I've learned so much from the advocates who bring very interesting and important matters to us. Yes, I've learned a whole lot over the years, and I appreciate it. And I don't take some of what you say completely personally, just to let you know. I also wanted to take this time to acknowledge publicly acknowledge Victor Young's enormously wonderful support. He's so competent, so helpful, such a pleasure to work with. And I was very lucky that he was tasked with staffing this body during my tenure as chair. And I may pop in from time to time to see how all is going. So you may see me sitting in the back of the room, or maybe even bringing complaints. That could be a way to fill my time. Okay, would you call the next item on the agenda?
Next on the agenda, item number 3, file number 15139, complaint filed by Sean Moody against the Assessor Recorder's Office for allegedly violating Administrative Code Section 67.21 and 67.25 for failure to respond to a public request in a timely and/or complete manner. This matter was previously heard by the task force and continued to the call of the chair. The complainant did request that the task force rehear this matter as they were not satisfied with the responses provided by the Assessor Recorder's Office.
Okay, at this time, so does everybody understand how this got on the agenda?
Madam Chair?
Yes, Member Pilpel.
Just to clarify, when we heard this in February, we found jurisdiction. We did not find a violation. We heard and continued the matter. So we've gotten past jurisdiction, but we've not found a violation. And that's where we were procedurally.
Exactly, right, because there were some unresolved issues regarding the records that had been requested.
Thank you.
And the records are very complicated, so it's hard for us to judge just what's been provided in what form and so forth. At this time, Mr. Mooney, you have 5 minutes.
Okay.
To
Sean Mooney. Last time I was here, I came before you with a grievance that there's 2 types of records that I have not been able to obtain in a reasonable period of time. The assessor's office managed to successfully confuse the issue so much that the last time I was here, we all agreed to hit the reset button and me to re-request the information specifically so that the assessor can have, so we would, to eliminate the confusion, I resubmitted my request for records. And on the very next day after the meeting in February, I re-requested the information, and it took the assessor 53 days to obtain the possessory interest tax rolls that I requested. I find that extremely unreasonable. And second, I'm here to discuss the second item that I requested, which was the forms called BOE 502P forms. They're a public record. I requested this information for an abundance of locations and amounting to 12,774 locations from the assessor, but realizing that that was an enormous amount of work, I requested in November to reduce that number to just 25 locations. And after the assessor continued to still not provide that information in a timely manner, I asked for only 5 locations. So now it's been 6 months since I've requested the information, and I still haven't gotten a single one. And the assessor's going to, Eddie McCaffrey's going to come up here and tell you how unreasonable and how all these excuses, yet I still don't have the information. So I really applaud this board for proceeding to move towards official misconduct, and I believe that this is another item that should be considered for that same violation. That's all I have for right now.
Thank you. Is there anyone here to offer, facts and evidence in support of the complainant? Mr. Mooney? Okay. No, I'm asking if there's somebody else. Okay, seeing none, is the respondent here from the assessor's office?
Chair Washburn?
Yes.
That's Eddie. Hi, Eddie. Just throwing this out there for disclosure. In June of 2012, I think we were at an event together and worked on something, but if I had to recuse myself from every single person that I've ever attended an event or worked on a campaign, I would never be here. So I just wanted to throw this out there that I've known Eddie for a couple of years, but it has absolutely no bearing on my ability to rule on this. How are you? I've not seen you in a few years, actually.
Thank
Good
you.
to see you.
Thank
Carry
you.
on.
Good evening. My name is Edward McCaffrey from the Office of the Assessor Recorder, and I serve as the Public Records Officer for the office. I was here in February in front of you all, and I really wanted to take a minute and say thank you to the body for providing guidance and for taking a minute at that meeting to step back and really helping to organize what the actual complainant was looking for, Mr. Mooney. It really was challenging prior to that meeting to really understand exactly what we were trying to get after and really what we were looking for. So after that meeting, as Mr. Mooney described, he followed up with an email directly to me, and I believe the Sunshine Task Force was included on that, asking for, and I'll read it, the letter was in response to his Public Records Act request he submitted on Wednesday, the February 3rd, requesting possessory interest data for years 2014 and 15, inclusive of the data points which were listed out, excluding sequence 1. And on March 24th, 2016, we responded to Mr. Mooney with the Sunshine Task Force included. I dropped off a hard copy file with an Excel document that included the information. And we were, from what I understood, to be in compliance with that request. I haven't heard any complaints around that data, which was what was requested on in February after this meeting. That is one request that I'm happy to talk more about. The new one that Mr. Mooney just mentioned, which is the 502P forms, and again, as was mentioned by the chair, this is somewhat complicated information around the data and what specifically is looking for. But I think it's important to note that we did send a correspondence on May the 2nd to Mr. Mooney, and a copy of that was sent to the Sunshine Task Force as well, which outlined the 12,714 permits and our staff's work to identify the forms that he was looking for. And in particular to Mr. Mooney's comments this evening around him condensing that request from 12,000 to 25, and then I think it went even further down. I didn't incorporate this into my letter, and I apologize for that, but in the last paragraph, it does say that we did a representative, we did a sample of the files and did not find any 502P forms responding to his request. And when we did that sample, we were looking at those 25 permits that he was specifically asking for. I apologize that I did not specifically call that out. But again, I want to kind of circle back and just look at what we're trying to get to here. Mr. Mooney is looking for information that would be on the 502P forms. And obviously, he wants to see a hard copy document. Because of the way that other departments and other entities provide that information to us, it is not always in hard copy. It is an electronic file. So what we have done through that correspondence on March 24th to Mr. Mooney, when we provided him with that tax roll on a CD-ROM, which was in the form of Excel, which we also provided to the Sunshine Task Force, was the information that would be included on that 502P form. Mr. Mooney is requesting specifically to look at the specific forms, and I wanted to just call out why in my letter it would be an estimated of 125 days to go through these permits. We've previously explained the conditions of such a review, that the hard copy and electronic portions of each file must be compiled and reviewed to ensure that no confidential information is disclosed. And so this isn't just a hard copy document that we can just hand over. It needs to be reviewed. It needs to be looked at not just by our office, but also by the city attorney to make sure that it's fully disclosable. And so when you look at the time that it requires to look into this information, we felt in doing the sample, we didn't find any 502P forms at all in the sample of the 25 records. But that being said, we tried to, which I believe was the original goal, was to provide the 502P information via the tax roll on the CD-ROM. So again, I think we're looking at two things in closing, which is the CD-ROM, which we provided, which had the majority of the 502P information on it. And now we're looking at the 502P form hard copies, and as I indicated, through the sample, we didn't have any that we could find, and also the majority of the information was already disclosed.
Okay, the matter is, first of all, is there anyone here to offer facts and evidence in support of the respondent? Okay, seeing none, the matter is with the task force. Member Pilpel.
Just a couple of things. Let me start with Mr. McCaffrey. So the information on, was it the PI role? We spent a lot of time talking about that last time. It is. I want to get it right. The information that Mr. Mooney requested in the form that he requested, do you believe that you've provided all of that information that you have, and whatever convoluted way, and the fields and explanation and all of that?
Yes, for Mr. Mooney's request that was submitted in February, we've provided that information in the best timely manner that we could with all the information that he was requesting.
Okay. And I think I saw your notes with the column W equals D minus and all that. I think the only concern I would raise, and I recognize that you and your department have spent probably gobs of time dealing with this over the past few years. The only comment I would make on that request is, since you weren't able to provide the information within 10 days or an extension and that if there wasn't, that there should have been a letter from your office to Mr. Mooney saying, we've got the request, we're processing it, we don't anticipate being able to get it done within 10 or 24 days. We anticipate having it done by X date, and as you get closer, if you were not able to make that date, to just sort of keep the complainant apprised of the status and that you were, engaged in pulling and futzing and all of that.
Absolutely. Okay. Understood. Thank you.
I'm not sure that I'm going to find a violation on that basis. Sometimes you do, sometimes not. Given the extreme effort that you've put into this, I think that sort of outweighs the thing. But in the future, if you have a big thing like this, it's good to keep them apprised. Turning to the other stuff, the 502P forms. If I understood from the correspondence back and forth in your letter of May 2nd, that actually should be May 2nd, 2016?
Correct.
Yeah, okay. Originally, it was 12,000, 17,000, some large number?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I wasn't clear on how that got reduced to 5 or 25. Can you help me through that?
Absolutely. Thank you, Member Palpal. So the original request from Mr. Mooney was 12,174. Mr. Mooney was willing to reduce that number, and so he came back to us, as he mentioned in his earlier report, that that number was reduced to around 25 specific permits that he was looking for. And my apologies that it was not explained in more detail in the notice or in the letter from May 2nd, explaining that in the sample work that we did to identify whether these 502P forms existed for these specific permits, we identified those 25 items that Mr. Mooney called out as part of our sample work to determine whether the 502P forms were available. And again, just to reiterate, none of the 502P forms were found. So I'm not just saying that the information wasn't disclosable. I mean that there were no 502P forms available because the information was given us through electronic file.
Okay, so all I want to understand on that is you didn't search the whole, 17,000?
12,000.
12,000, I keep getting the whole 12,000. Did you search each of those 25 requested permits or files and find no 502P form in those 25 files?
That is correct.
Okay, because that wasn't clear from
Absolutely.
The record. Okay. And finally, on just those 25 files, is the equivalent information that would be on the 502P form, but that you get in some other fashion, was that provided?
Yes, the information was provided on the CD from March 25th.
It's included in the larger thing?
Correct.
Okay. I think I'm good. Thank you. Can I just follow up then with Mr. Mooney? Is there, and I'll ask the famous Member Fisher question, is there any information that you were seeking back then, or the 502P forms that you haven't gotten? Is there anything that you're still looking for that they have not provided?
Yes.
Okay.
First of all, the 502P forms, the P stands for public. It's a public document. Last time I was here, I provided you a copy of this memorandum from the Board of Equalization.
Yep.
That clearly states on it that all items, the form is designed in a way that everything on the form is a public record. There is no need to review anything on this form because it's already been predetermined by legal counsel and the Board of Equalization that every single thing on the form is public. The second thing that I requested was the possessory interest ID number or tax ID number. The assessor has not provided a single tax ID number that corresponds with the 25 or any of the requested documents.
So are those the only two things that you think you're missing? I mean, it's important for us to understand what's
Okay,
still-
I want to be as clear as I can. When I come here, there's only 3 types of documents that I'm actually looking for from the assessor. There's the PI data tax roll, which is a public record. There's the 502P forms, which is a public record. And then there's the tax ID numbers that are public records. Those are the only types of documents I'm requesting, and I haven't received a single one pertinent to the requests regarding the permits. I welcome any more questions.
Okay, I have a question for Mr. McCaffrey.
But last thing I want to say is I've been requesting these documents well before October of last year. It's been months that I have to wait. I mean, it's been, Eddie just provided me that letter that said it would take 12,000 days or whatever to do this. Well, he didn't say that in the beginning. I had to wait 6 months just for him to say, we can't find anything. That's not reasonable. Thank you.
Yeah, I was wondering about the tax ID numbers that were requested.
Sure.
What happened to those?
Sure. So it's indicated on your letter from May 2nd. On the second page of that, it's the paragraph states tax account numbers. And so it explains in detail specifically our official response to that. I'm happy to read it, but the possessory interest account information is available by special report. The special report is what we refer to as what the entities send us on the Excel document, which is what we provided to you all. We made available to Mr. Mooney the possessory interest tax rolls for years 2010 through 2015, which all included all possessory interest tax account numbers associated with the roll information.
So you did provide him with that information?
Yes, we did.
Okay. Now, the 502P forms, so if I'm understanding you correctly, the physical forms that, and Mr. Mooney showed us an example, those do not come to the assessor's office. They're in other departments, possibly.
And I would like to clarify, if
Yeah.
I may. So they do come to our office. They come to our office, but the 502P forms, the actual forms aren't always coming to our office. The information on the form via the BOE. The BOE says you can provide either the 502P form or the information in lieu of, let me just find exactly what it says. So I have it. It pretty much says that the entities, let's just use the San Francisco port, can send that information not just only by 502P form, but in an equivalent format.
Mm-hmm.
And so we get it through electronic format.
I understand. So, but if he wanted to see the actual physical format, in this case, or the actual form, he would go to the port.
Yes.
And ask for it.
Correct.
Okay, so did you let him know that?
We have in past conversations with Mr. Mooney, and I know that he's been in correspondence with the port. We've worked with him to provide him what is considered the rent roll in assessor speak. We have provided that probably, I think it was in 2015, where we've gone through the rent roll and redacted all of the particular information that was non-disclosable, and then we provided him with the hard copy that we received from the port.
Okay, thank you. Other members?
Just FYI, the first time this came to us, it was both the assessor's office and the port because there were issues about the PI stuff and port tenants. So that was the context that I first understood this matter.
Other members? Do you have any questions? So, Mr. Mooney, it sounds like you may have all of the information you requested, but you'll have to dig around in what you were provided. Am I wrong?
No, I haven't received the information. I've requested the possessory interest tax roll. Eddie is trying to say that all the permits that you're requesting are on that roll. They're not on the roll. Okay? And the second thing is, in regard to what Eddie said, the assessor is allowed to accept the 502P forms in other formats as long as it has all the same information on the 502 forms in that alternative format, the rent roll. That isn't the case here. He has provided the rent rolls, but the key information that I need isn't on there. Therefore, I'm not getting the information I need.
What?
Okay, specifically, one of the categories on the 502 form would state how many remaining years is left on the original possessory interest. And that, for tax reasons, that's a very important question. It has the information I request is in response to the assessor's watchdog program. The assessor offers a reward for people that provide information that leads to the recovery of property taxes that have escaped taxes. So when I ask for $12,700, and this isn't just like asking for 12,000 documents for no reason. I'm reporting 12,774 permits that are escaping taxes. And the assessor wants to cover that up by doing smoke and mirrors and saying, oh, it's on there, and we did this and we did that, and it's not. I'm not getting the information. The public is being cheated out of tax revenue that I'm trying to bring to their attention, but instead, I'm being stonewalled with delays and unreasonable time limits to get the information.
Okay. Members? Okay. At this time, first the respondent and then the complainant. You have 3 minutes for a rebuttal for some final information to help us out here.
Absolutely. I think what could be lost, and I called it out in my initial remarks, how much I appreciated the task force guidance in the February meeting to really drive what we're looking for. And that helped us, and I apologize for the delay in not making sure we were alerting the complainant, Mr. Mooney, on the delay, but it really helped us drive what we were looking to go after and what we could provide, and that we did that to the best of our ability, and we felt as if what we gave him was the information that we had on record. Prior to that, we've been corresponding with Mr. Mooney probably for the last 2 to 3 years, not just myself, but other members of our staff, in identifying different type of parcels, properties within the city that, as Mr. Mooney identified, may be escaping property tax. This isn't just possessory interest. We've talked about a number of other properties, not just the ones we're identifying today, but others. And over those 3 years or 2.5 years, we've been working with him to provide him with that information to the best of our ability. And I understand that it's not always been timely, but it does take time due to the sensitivity of the information that's collected or received from our office. And so, again, I just want to thank the Sunshine Task Force time for providing that guidance, for hearing this item, and understanding that, this probably won't be the end of us working with Mr. Mooney as we continue to identify ways or information that he's looking for. But from this point, I feel like we've gotten to a good conclusion. So thank you.
Thank you. At this time, Mr. Mooney, you have 3 minutes.
Okay. I'm going to focus my remaining 3 minutes here to talk about the possessory interest tax roll that I requested, and that we reset the time that I requested after the meeting last time, where it took Eddie 53 days to produce the tax roll. Okay, what you really need to gravitate towards is when I requested that same information, I requested it on the same exact form, the January 15th letter that I provided for you last time, the exact same, in the exact same way. It was all smoke and mirrors when he was here last time telling you that he was his last remarks when we were here last time was he was upset that we were resetting the reset button because he put so much time and effort creating all those documents just to confuse everybody, just to create smoke and mirrors that, hey, we don't understand what you're asking and this and that. The bottom line is, after I made it clear as a bell per the task force request, it took him 53 days, which means that from the time I originally asked for it, it took him 413 days to provide that information. That is absolutely unreasonable. Thank you.
Thank you. The matter is now at the task force.
I missed the February meeting, so I was playing catch up. I'm going to see what other people have to say.
Members? Member Pilpel.
I'm trying to keep it brief. I feel like the assessor recorder wasn't with it originally. We gave them some guidance. They had a problem with their index of records. There was communication with the port. We tried to intervene and help fix that. I think that they have done what they could to provide the information reasonably to the complainant. I'm not feeling a particular violation right now. I get that they have issues with communication and how they're talking to each other. I'm not sure that we understand all of the particular technical things about the PI role and the escape stuff and the supplemental and the but I'm just not feeling a particular violation right now.
Through the chair, I tend to agree. It's been hard following this case because of the technicality of it, but I think what was successful in the past was when Mr. Mooney had a piece of paper in his hands and showed the respondent, this is what I'm looking for. I think more instances like that, rather than just describing it, would be helpful. I mean, you're saying that, remaining years of taxes are not there, but if that's something that, you could physically show the respondent and say, this is exactly looking for these records, and just keep narrowing, because, again, with all respect, Mr. Mooney, the communication is just not there. I mean, I'm having trouble following exactly what it is that you're after.
Okay. I have to say I'm surprised at my colleagues. No one's seen a timeliness issue. Mr. Mooney has a lot of what he was requesting, but this has been going on for many months. And it's incumbent upon departments to ask for extensions and to assist the requester. It's not, the requester is not, the burden isn't on the requester to show the agency or the department exactly, where to find stuff or even what's available. So I would at least expect a motion that there was a timeliness issue here. Even this latest round, there was a timeliness issue. We just said, hey, you should have asked for an extension. Hey, you should have been in communication with Mr. Mooney rather than it taken way more than 14 days to...
Just to refresh, through the chair, we did not find a violation because we thought they're working it out. We thought we'd keep it open.
Mm-hmm. Right, but it didn't mean that we weren't ever going to find a violation.
That's unusual, because usually we find the violation and then keep it open. So if we hadn't found the violation, I would, I think certainly needs to be recorded that there was and perhaps continues to be one. I think Member Pilpel alluded to that earlier. I'd be certainly willing to support, a violation of 6721, I believe.
6721B
Yes.
and possibly C we're talking about, not in the near past, but in, before this originally came, failure to assist.
I can see a timeliness violation.
For that.
At least if nothing else, for lack of communication. Even if the department did claim voluminous records, or they could have at least asked for an extension or been in communication with Mr. Mooney. So,
And also providing things on a rolling basis.
yeah.
That's what the law requires. Member Wolf?
I think the issue with the timeliness has been a little bit obscured by the fact that I'm still confused as to whether the documents that Mr. Mooney is requesting do actually exist in the assessor's office, and it appears that they may exist in the port's office. Have you, or the port, through the port, have you sought them through the port at this point, Mr. Mooney?
The tax roll comes from the assessor, not the port. The 502 forms are required to be reported to the port, and then the port then files them with the assessor. So they effectively should both have them.
Right, I understand that. My question, though, is have you sought them from the port?
Well, for instance, on some matters, yes. But like, for instance, these permits that we're talking about now, they don't have anything to do with the port.
Okay, but what I'm looking for is that if you sought them from the port and you sought them from the assessor, and they should both have a matching set of documents, and you find a mismatch, then there's sort of evidence of what you should be able to have and don't have. But right now, for me, I'm just sort of at a... It's like you're saying this document should exist. The assessor's saying that they don't, and I'm sort of left kind of confused here. So, like, if I were pursuing a story about this matter, I would be trying to identify the differences between what one source for the documents and the other source for the documents has. And I'm curious if you're inclined to pursue that angle to better exemplify what it is you're looking for and don't have. That may not help us take action today, but if this comes back, it might give us more context.
Thank you. Yes, I would welcome this board to keep this complaint open, and I will report back on the progress next time. But I'd like to make a comment on Chris's comment that there seems to be a lack of documents, me requesting this information. If you recall the meeting last time, there was too much documents. The whole reason why you couldn't make a decision last time is because there was an overwhelming amount of information that you couldn't possibly siphon through. And now you're saying the opposite today. You're saying, well, now there's not enough information. So I'm caught between too much and not enough.
Through the chair, if I can just respond. What I was saying last time, I remembered you pulled out something. You said, here it is, this column, this row. This is what I'm looking for.
Right.
And we seem to have a breakthrough at that point. The respondent said, yes, I can get you that. So it's more constructive direction from your side, too. I mean, yes, the onus is on them, but help us help you.
Okay, right. So I did that, and my complaint today here is that it took him 53 days after this task force reset the button and said, okay, start over.
Okay.
So it took 53 days, but...
And it looks like we're leaning towards a violation for that. Fair enough.
Okay.
What else? So 53 days, but you still have more information that you need, correct?
Right.
And that needs to be presented as clearly as what you got 53 days ago. Give us that as a next step so you can continue having this dialogue with...
Okay, I hear what you're saying, and I hear what Jose is saying, and I welcome you to hopefully find a violation and keep this open, and I will report back on the progress at the next meeting.
Very good. I mean, what else?
Well, we could move this on to compliance and amendments and hear it in committee rather than here. Member Pilpel.
Just very briefly, I think it's worth noting that where someone requests a specific record and the department can find the specific record, then all of the regular stuff applies. Where they ask for a bunch of stuff and it relates to a legacy computer system and there's redaction and complicated stuff involved, I'm not sure that those regular time limits apply. The department did not invoke the rule of reason. They probably could have. We haven't had instances like this recently, but we used to have situations with planning or DBI that had complicated case management systems. This seems to me like something involving some major IT and redaction and organizing of records. So I'm just, for all of those reasons, not holding them to the standard 10 days. As I said earlier, I think it would have been better to keep the complainant advised. I'm not sure that I'm finding a violation based on that, but if that's the will of the task force, so be it.
I just want to say that the ordinance requires the respondent to ask for an extension if the request is for a voluminous amount of information or the information is hard to come by with antiquated computer systems or whatever. And there's the whole idea of providing things on a rolling basis. That's the plain letter of the ordinance. Now, I'd like to move this along, please.
So why don't I make a motion to find a timeliness violation? I think it's important just to register this and then have the parties keep working together. But I think at some point we need to,
Is that your motion? The
for the
timeliness?
record. Let me flesh it out a little bit more. 6721B, is that correct?
Right.
Second.
Member Wolf?
Yeah, is it better for us to find a timeliness violation now and then potentially there be more violations that haven't quite revealed themselves, or to keep it open and then find a violation in the future? Because I'm still not convinced that there isn't more going on here, and maybe it makes sense to just have the complainant file a follow-up complaint should that reveal itself. But there's something that still doesn't quite add up in my mind, and I'm not sure how best to address that.
Well, okay, one thing we can do is find a violation that would go to the Compliance and Amendments Committee if we think there's additional records out there.
Sounds reasonable.
Or it would go to EO, But I'm sorry, Mr. McCaffrey, you may be able to say something more to address Member Wolf's concerns.
Yeah, right to approach.
I think this was in response to what I was saying.
So, Ms. Wolf, may you just repeat specifically what I'm happy to respond. I just want to make sure I target what you're looking for.
Well, I mean, I'm still sort of a little lost as to why Mr. Mooney feels that you haven't provided everything you have. As I said before, the easiest way to identify or confirm that Mr. Mooney was correct would be to obtain documents from the port and identify any discrepancies. I'm not sure you'll be able to convince me that you have given everything that Mr. Mooney has provided, because I don't have access to any of that. But any clarity you can provide to why Mr. Mooney still feels that way might be helpful, but that's also not your responsibility.
Sure. I think to your point around a discrepancy between what we're providing and what is available, and I'll state this again, we've been working 2.5 to 3 years on different requests from Mr. Mooney to provide him what he wants. And every time we provide him something, he comes back with a new request. And that's why I really highlighted the point around getting guidance, as Mr. Highland directed earlier or mentioned earlier, is that we've been going back and forth for a number of years, and it's taken a lot of time, either through our property tax system or through reviewing the records, either in our office or with the city attorney, to make sure there's no privacy issues around it. And so what I expect to happen is a new request to come in, still looking for the same information, and us doing this exact same dance, which is us saying to him, this is the information that we have available, this is in the format that we can make it available to you, and I'm not sure we'll ever satisfy what he's looking for. And so I feel as if the direction on what specifically is being asked is an excellent request, or directing in other departments, because what we are corresponding with Mr. Mooney and saying this is what we have available never seems to satisfy what he's looking for.
Thank you.
And I just wanted to say that that is something that the law requires you to do. If you don't have it, give some suggestions, point the requester to someone who would have it or possibly could have it. And doing that, you will have fulfilled your obligation under the ordinance.
A clarification, please. To avoid the he said, she said thing and whether they have it or don't have it, I ask you break it down, okay, and focus now on the tax account numbers. They either have it or they don't. That's not something that can be hidden or said that we don't have it, or that's their job. They're the assessor. They have to have tax account numbers for every assessment. And I'm asking for those account numbers, and they are not providing me, not with one, not even one.
Excuse me, I thought that it was part of the information that was given to you on the CD.
Those are two different things. The permits that I'm asking for right now, the 12,700 in permits, are different than the PI tax roll data that I'm asking for. Those are like separate. Like I said in the beginning, there's 3 types of documents that I request: the tax roll, the tax ID numbers, and the 502P forms. If I come back the next meeting and the next meeting and the next meeting, it will always be about those 3 documents, none others.
Okay, thank you for the clarification. Member Wolf.
Mr. Mooney, can you return to the microphone? So, just so I can understand what's going on here, are you getting documents that have things that have been redacted that you think shouldn't be lawfully redacted, or are you not receiving the documents at all?
I'm not receiving the documents at all.
And then, I'm sorry, what's I know your first name's Eddie, but I didn't. McCaffrey, can you? So are these documents that he's requesting and saying he hasn't received at all in your possession, or they're in your possession but you can't turn them over for some reason?
Sure. So the 12,000 plus permits, which are documents that he's looking for via 502P form, there is an assumption that they are in hard copy form in our office. And what I have, not been successful at communicating is that not always are the actual physical forms in our office. The information on that consists of the 502P form comes in other formats, which we've delivered through an Excel document. That being said, we did a sample of the 25 permits that he's been looking for, and we went through our records and we identified that no 502P forms exist for those permits. And so the next step, which is what I think I would love the guidance from the task force from, is what is the next request? What does that look like? And we will be happy to do that with the understanding, as indicated on the May letter to Mr. Mooney and copied to the Sunshine Task Force, that we're looking at around 125 hours of staff's time to go through each of the hard copy files to identify the forms, whether they're there or not. So again, We started off at 12,000. He came back with 25. We researched the 25. We didn't identify any hard copy 502P forms on record for those parcels, for those permits.
But there's like a virtual 502P form that exists in as some sort of software format.
If the information is given to us, yes, then it exists in a soft copy format.
And what's that format?
The version that we, well,
No,
it's
what
in
is
our,
the actual?
Sure, it's in AS4. It's usually sent through Excel. And then uploaded into our property tax system. And that is what we've talked about because it's yes.
And so the original documents that are submitted through Excel and then are entered into your system in AS4, do you keep those original documents that you use to import it?
Well, those aren't our documents. They are from other departments and agencies.
But you receive them. In order to import them, you receive them. So
Correct.
do you maintain ownership? Do you keep them or do you get rid of them?
So we do have them. An example of that was what I identified before with the port. And so in 2000, I believe 14, maybe 15, we provided him with those original copies of what I consider to be the rent roll. They were the original copies of what the port gave us, and we went through them. We redacted all the private information, and then we scanned them and sent them to him, because that's the format that we received them in. So again, to just one more, you're right. Well, it came to us in an original format. Why didn't we just send that? We tried that as well. And again, that didn't satisfy the requester. So then we went to the next phase, which is all of the information that we have available, not just for the port, but for all 502P form or for all possessory interest data.
Okay, thank you.
All right, it's now time to move on. So do I have a motion?
There was a motion made.
Oh, there was. Oh, okay.
To find a violation of 67.21B in regards to timeliness.
And was there a second?
Yes, there was a second.
Okay, all right. At this time, I'd like to hear from members of the public.
Members of the task force, Ray Hartz, Director, San Francisco Open Government. Unfortunately, I'm hearing Mr. McCaffrey do a lot of things that typically they do here, which is, if we give him what he's asking for, he's just going to ask for more. He's been asking for stuff for a long time. There's nothing in the law that prohibits anybody from asking for any public record, not putting limitations on them. He also uses it's going to take us a lot of office hours, a lot of time. Well, the law doesn't make any exception for that. So basically, a lot of that, to me, comes across as simply trying to undercut Mr. Mooney and try to make it seem like he's an unreasonable person asking for things which are just unreasonable. The second thing goes back to Member Wolf's comment, and the chair already addressed this, is the fact that if they don't have the records, but they do know someone like the ports who have those records, it is their obligation under this law to advise Mr. Mooney that we don't have it, but the ports will have at least some of these, if not all of the records. And I didn't hear any indication that they did that. Now, as to the motion itself, there is undeniably lateness in responding. And they didn't ask for the extension, from what I understand, which they're required to do under the law. And basically, if you don't have documents under the California Public Records Act, any denial of documents has to be in writing. So was he sent a letter saying we do not have this document or that document? They're asking him for a lot of specifics. Tell us we want this and this and this and this and this. But when it comes to answering the question and answering the request for public records, their response is, you're asking for too much, and we can't keep track of what you're asking for, and we're not really clear and whatever. Anywhere I've ever worked, one of the jobs I've had as a manager was to get involved in disagreements between my employees or my subordinates and members of the public. And I found that if you're willing to talk with them openly and honestly, you can usually come to some sort of agreement. And it seems to me that so far in all of these hearings, Mr. McCaffrey and his department have done what they've been forced to do rather than what they could do. And I agree with Member Wolf. It makes it seem odd. And I would agree with him also in the fact that if I were Mr. Mooney, I would request specific documents from the port, see what they get, and then ask the assessor's office, why don't you have these? Because the port has it, and by law, they're supposed to send it to you. They're telling me they did, and you're saying you don't have it.
Thank you.
Peter Warfield, I agree with the previous speaker, Ray Hartz. There's a lot of burning, smoky stuff that just doesn't feel right or sound right. First of all, when Member Wolf says that he doesn't have access to certain materials, I'm not sure what he's referring to, but I did hear the assessor say that he was at least at some point providing documents to both the requester and the Sunshine Task Force. So I certainly hope that that could be cleared up as to what he provided from the assessor's office to the task force, and why isn't that available to the members, as I believe it should be if it was provided to the task force, if in fact that's the case. Part of the smoke that I'm smelling, which is not a pleasant smell, is we have so many privacy issues that we have to review. I think you heard from the requester, the complainant, that apparently these forms are noted as every aspect of them being public. And I haven't yet heard the assessor's office say what exactly was he expecting to find in the documents that would be legally required to be withheld or that is permissible to be withheld. And remember that under Sunshine, there are specific, particularly in the state version of the law, there are many specific allowances where you may or you must withhold information, but those are very, very specific, such as in my area of knowledge, library registration records, which is anything a patron gives to get a card. So what exactly did the assessor think might take him time to go through and that might even be in those records that he's entitled or required to withhold? We haven't heard any of that. Nor have we heard anything about a notice to the complainant that for these reasons, these sorts of information that are in the records are something that we have to withhold. The complaint that every time he gets information, he wants more information, well, that's certainly typical of almost any kind of a reporter's efforts, of almost any kind of a conversation. And as Mr. Hart says, you find out something, then you might have another question, and that might lead to another question or clarification and more information requests. It's perfectly normal, and it's nothing to complain about, and it's their duty to respond. As far as 125 hours go, the ordinance specified at the time that it was passed by the public that it would cost money and time from agencies, and that's part of the law. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there additional public comment?
My name is Sylvia Jonathan, and I wrote on the task force, contracts that they were supposed to invest in all areas, and also put it on the police report. I meant all of the papers that they put in the conversations to invest in paperwork, to invest in all subjects, and that's why I was meeting on the contract, and also for the police to invest in different kind of investments that they need to put forth in this to proceed in our Americas, because congregations, and to make sure that there's everybody getting their right, budgeting, with probably the same, because there'd be more on building houses, which I had already put an application in.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Is there additional public comment? Okay, the matter is now with the task force.
On the motion to find the violation of 67.21B, Member Eldon.
Aye.
Eldon, aye. Member Wolf.
Aye.
Wolf, aye. Cooper, absent. Member Pilpil.
No.
Pilpil, no. Haynes, absent. Member Fisher.
I'm going to let this ride. Aye.
Fisher, aye. Member Hinsey.
Aye.
Hinsey, aye. Vice Chair Hyland.
Aye.
Hyland, aye. Chair Washburn.
Aye.
Washburn, aye. The motion passes.
Thank you.
Does the chair have any instructions?
Yes, this should go to compliance and amendments.
And do you have any instructions to the parties?
I would like for Mr. Mooney to be very clear to the assessor's office about what it is you are still asking for that you haven't received.
That's reasonable, thank you. Could you offer any more suggestions as far as
Please come up to
copying
the
the
mic.
task force? Oh, as far as copying the task force or assigning someone from the task force to act as a mediator, or is there any other
Well, this will be coming to a committee in the next month or so, a couple of months. So that'll be the time for the task force to revisit this. But I strongly urge the two of you to work together to resolve this before then. That would be great. And I don't know that we can do much more at this point. We've heard from you both. We've tried to understand this complicated request that you've made. So, again, I urge you to be specific. I urge the assessor's office to be helpful. Member Pilpel.
Could we just suggest that any correspondence between the two of you, email or letters on this, be copied to the task force so that we can get that to the compliance committee? I don't think we're specifically interested in the underlying records, but the cover letters that describe the records provided or not provided may be helpful.
I'll do that, thank you.
Thanks. Do you need clarification?
I would really appreciate clarification or direction from Mr. Mooney on going forward on specifically what he's looking for if you're trying to rectify this item before it goes to the next committee. Because I really don't have much direction to go off of unless I receive that.
Okay. All right. So it may take some back and forth. That's why we're asking Mr. Mooney to be specific and for you to be helpful to him. But I think we need to move on now. There are other people, there are other people that have matters.
One more.
Okay, one more.
Eddie.
You can speak off the record if you like.
Could you speak off the record, please? We have other people that we're running past the time, and
Well, I'd like to just make a public record request right here in front of everybody right now.
no, this isn't the place for that, please. Okay, thank you.
Madam Chair, would you like to take the items out of order and do the possibility of losing quorum on the...
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, because...
I can stay a little bit later if necessary.
Okay, but we had...
We have one item prior to getting to those.
Theoretically,
4?
Yes.
Should go quickly.
Okay.
As long as the task force members don't bog it down.
Okay, and then we'll move on to the special order. Okay, so item number 4.
Item number 4, file number 15142, complaint filed by William Clark against Jose Cisneros and the Office of the Treasurer Clerk Secretary for allegedly violating Administrative Code, Section 67.21, for failure to maintain and make public records available for inspection and examination. The committee referred the matter to the task force with a recommendation to find that there are no violations of the Sunshine Ordinance. However, they did request that the question be presented to the city attorney and to the controller's office regarding their complaint as to whether the treasurer tax collector was responsible for tracking the I'm missing the word, but the Arts Commission's bank accounts.
Yeah. Do you want me to fill you in on
Yes,
this?
if you would, Member Fisher. You were chair of the complaint committee that
Yeah,
heard this.
and I went through this and I jotted down some notes, and thank you, Mr. Young, for following up on this. So this was one of those situations where the Clark brothers wanted some information, valid information that anybody would want, but the treasurer's office didn't have it. They don't have it. They don't keep those records. They don't track those records. I felt like, yet again, I was in one of those situations where I felt really constrained by the ordinance, like, this is all I could do. If they don't have the records, they don't have the records. I wish I could put on my, magic wand and be queen for the day and say, hey, you guys should have those records, but they don't have them. They're not there. So what we did is, as you can see on page 116, there's 2 bullet questions that we put out there saying, hey, is the treasurer required to track this? And if not, who is required to do this? Is it maybe the controller? And then on page 117, starting at the bottom of 116, Mr. Young did some research on this, and you can all read it. There's a response down there. And at the bottom in bold, it says, the controller shall cause all funds received, blah, 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 to be deposited, and that the use of this money is there. And then, so I kind of got the sense that, no, it wasn't them either. And then, again, on page 118, there was a very timely follow-up from the controller's office. Ben, was it Ben? Somebody, controller. Basically, again, it's page on our packet 118, clarifying for us by charter, article, and section number that they supervise the accounting of this. But I kind of got the sense they oversee, they supervise the practices, but the tracking of receipts and expenditures is managed by the Arts Commission. And then there was one other thing that I wrote down, so it must have meant something on page 36. This must have meant something. Oh, yeah, this looked pretty interesting. It was Ben Rosenfeld said, the treasurer doesn't cut checks. They initiate in different ways. So it seems like this is all pointing back to the Arts Commission. And while, the Clark brothers have been here many times, and they've actually done a lot of good things for the Arts Commission, I think that maybe they're just knocking on the wrong door on this one, and we just didn't see any all 3 of us didn't see any violation. Member Eldon and Member Hinsey were there too. Do you have anything to add? Was that memorable?
That was a good summary.
Yeah, okay. Fair summary.
Would you like to open this up to comment?
Right. So at this type of hearing, you're considered a member of the public, so you can speak for 3 minutes.
Okay.
Well, 6, because there's 2 of them.
Well, I can't speak for my brother.
No, he has to come up.
I sent you an email recently in which I requested a new hearing based on the fact that I received an email from Ben Rosenfield of the controller in which we were talking about the money and the accounting for it, and he wrote back to me, per government accounting standards, while the Street Arts Fund is otherwise in a deficit, which means they ran out of money, expenditures that have been incurred, whether for staff time or to meet other obligations and commitments, continue to be paid and recorded in the appropriate fiscal period. Accordingly, all expenditures attributable to FY 13-14 have been paid and recorded to our knowledge. And then this is the important part. He says, as is the case for all expenditures of the city, cash is drawn from the general treasury of the city for any incurred expense, and then accounted for in unique project funds or accounts that capture surpluses and deficit. So the controller responded to me when I finally said, where's this money? How are these bills going to be paid? He said, well, we've paid for them, and even though there was no money in the Street Arts Fund, which is the account that you all discovered recently, he said, even though after that is depleted, then the city continues to pay those expenses by the use of cash and that cash comes out of the Treasury. So now I'm saying that this indicates to me that there must be records of these cash withdrawals in the Treasury, and therefore, I'm asking not to plead my whole case here tonight, but to request a rehearing on this so that I can address this explanation given to me by the controller where these deficit expenses and where the money came from those to pay for those deficit expenses, which he claims was the Treasury in cash, and that there should be a record somewhere in the Treasury's office as to those cash withdrawals for that FY 13-14 period to cover that $83,000 deficit. So all I'm doing is asking you to give me an opportunity to go over this a little bit more and request a rehearing on this matter. Oh, one other thing is that on the bank account, I also put in a request because I found out the charter requires a written approval by the treasurer before the Arts Commission could open up any bank account, and I put in a written request for that document, and the treasurer responded that he does not have any written approval to open up that bank account. But that's the second issue. Since I've been, with popular demand, asked to make a statement, first, before I do state whatever response, I do want to thank Member Washburn for her years I remember the old committee, and there were a lot of good people. I'm not saying there aren't good people on this committee either, but there were a lot of good people on that committee, and she was one of them, and I want to thank you for your time. I do want to emphasize this new email that the controller sent to us, because it clearly states that when the Street Arts program ran out of money, he went to the Treasury and got money out of the Treasury to pay these outstanding bills. And this is the same thing we're asking for. We're asking for the records from the Treasury Department for these outstanding bills that were paid for out of the Treasury. But the treasurer says there are no records. And therefore, the treasurer, either the treasurer is lying and saying the controller is lying when he says he got it from the Treasury, or the treasurer is lying when the controller says what he says. So all I'm saying is that this is new evidence that clearly shows from the controller's own mouth that he was going to the Treasury to get money to pay for these expenses that the Street Arts program didn't have money for, and there has to be a record in the Treasury's office of those funds. Now, to come in and say that you have no records of any funds, to me is a blatant example of a lie, because the controller says he's been taking it out. So all I'm requesting, as my brother's requesting, that at the very least, let us have a new hearing, or if you don't want to do that, then I'm requesting that you change this motion and find that the treasurer did not supply the information that we requested, because the controller clearly states that he did get money from the Treasury, and there's got to be records from the treasurer regarding that money.
Thank you. Is there additional public comment? Okay, the matters with the task. Oh,
Is it public
We're
testimony?
doing
Or?
yes.
we're taking public.
Please
No,
come forward.
you can come forward. Yeah.
Ray Hartz, Director, San Francisco Open Government. I've been in this task force for a lot of hearings regarding the Arts Commission and the art. Basically, it's you got these people who are street artists, and they pay a lot of fees, and when they try to find out where the money goes, they can't find it at. And I don't think it is an unreasonable request for somebody who is paying a significant portion of what their income is to participate in a program to expect that the people who run the program keep proper records, and if asked for those records, provide them. And it also is really kind of putting the clerks in kind of an odd position where you get one department saying we have the records and we gave it to them, and the other department saying we didn't. And it's somewhat similar to some cases that I've seen, which is you ask them, what does something cost? And they say, we have no record to determine that. And you're going like, so how did this person get paid? Somebody had to write a check, or somebody had to dole out some cash, and somebody had to put a record and charge it to a department or an expense account. And it's kind of ludicrous. I've got an MBA, and it's kind of, I hear people coming in saying, well, the money's gone, but we don't know where. We have no documents to show where. And it's kind of like, okay, then what you're saying basically is you're irresponsible. You're negligent. You gave money to somebody and you have no records to show who you gave it to, what it was for, or anything. And that's what these cases always sound like to me. They always sound like people who have their hand in the money are doling the money out and then coming and trying to say, we have no record of who we doled the money at, to, what it was for, or how much it was.
Thank you.
I think the clerks should be given a new hearing based on the new evidence of the email that they submitted. I don't really know the procedure. That's the first time I've heard this before, of asking for a new hearing, but I think they're entitled to it. And this issue of the Street Arts program is very distressing. It's not only that, it's there's no manager at Justin Herman Plaza. The volunteer lottery people have completed their year. Nobody wants to sign up. It's a volunteer position. It requires a lot of work, a lot of time. That's the lottery. There has been no manager for well over a year. That's another volunteer position. And it's just a complete lack of information. It's very frustrating. It's very hard. And I can appreciate how somebody would be there taking the time to make their artwork, which is very time-consuming, and the jewelry they make is very intricate, and it does take time, and then have to spend time bringing about complaints like this, wondering about managerial issues. It's daunting, actually. And I think a clerk should be given a lot of credit for doing this. I basically think the program's falling apart. It will get to a point where the deficit will become so high it will come to someone's attention and something will have to be done. So if you can give them a new hearing, which is why they're here, that might be a good idea.
Thank you. Is there additional public comment?
Hello, my name is Selma Johnson, and I'm supposed to be down there at the manager department, but I haven't had. I asked the lady the other day. It was in what you call presidency meeting, and I was asking her if she knew anything about where the address is, and she flipped me off on the house. And,
excuse me, are you speaking to this matter? I don't hear that.
I'm talking about I'm talking about the task force that needs to be with the creative arts, and I'm talking about also the art exhibitors. I was over there the other day, and I wanted to make sure I had gotten everything inclined in building process for building to go to the meetings over there at our arts distributors. And I apologize because this is getting pretty stressful for the kids.
Thank you so much. Okay, the matters with the task force. Member Fisher?
I already made my, I didn't see any violation here, so we, generally don't make motions for no violation.
We do.
We
'cause
do
it's a
have to.
committee recommendation.
Right,
You wanna
we have
make
to.
a motion or something?
A motion to accept the committee
Oh, you're right, a
recommendation.
motion. Can I do that? Can I make a motion to
You
accept
can.
my own I'd
Yes.
like to make a motion to accept the recommendation of the complaint committee.
Second.
Thank you. Drift away.
Okay, so
On that motion?
Nope.
we need to have public comment
We
on
just had public comment.
Okay, all right.
I had.
We didn't get the motion.
No, we should have. We didn't. Can I?
Member Pilpel.
Yeah, so I think the motion is to accept the recommendation, find no violation. Just very briefly, I think we've been hearing from the clerks for years. I think this particular issue stretches back at least a year and a half, perhaps 2 years. I recall conversations and email with Monique Zamuda when she was deputy controller about the deficit in the fund and how the city was going to address it through the budget process. Either that happened or it didn't happen. In any event, I think that the issues that the clerks have with the Street Artist Program Fund and its potential deficit are actually with the Arts Commission and the Controller's Office. So I'm with the recommendation to find no violation as to the Treasurer's Office. I think the Treasurer maintains the funds of the city but doesn't really handle the accounting. That's really the Controller's Office. So I think that if they want to bring another complaint or make further records requests to the Controller's Office, that's really the place. I was, just one last thing, I was slightly troubled by page 118, the response that we got from the Controller's Office. If we get something like this in the future, Victor, if we could ask them to resend it. I just don't like these sort of generic, Dear Mr. Young, best regards, Office of the Controller. I have no idea who authored this, who it came from. So, you know, if it comes from Maura, if it comes from Ben, if it comes from Todd, that's fine. I would just like to have a name associated with the response. You know, these anonymous sort of responses, particularly when they're important, I find that a little troubling. But I'm good with the recommendation. Thank you.
Okay, so on the motion?
On that motion, Member Eldon.
Aye.
Eldon, aye. Member Wolf.
Aye.
Wolf, aye. Copra, absent. Member Pilpil.
Aye.
Pilpil, aye. Member Haynes, absent. Member Fisher.
Aye.
Fisher, aye. Member Hensy.
Aye.
Hensy, aye. Vice Chair Hyland.
Aye.
Hyland, aye. Chair Washburn.
Aye.
Washburn, aye. The motion passes.
So we urge the Clark brothers to continue trying to get the information you need about some accountability for this money.
Well,
Looks like the controller
you
must
guys
know.
paid for our bills. Thank you. 'Cause it wasn't us.
Okay.
We paid $83,000.
Item number 6, file number 16012, complaint filed by Ray Hartz against Leanne Pelham, Executive Director of the Ethics Commission and the Ethics Commission for allegedly violating Administrative Code Section 67.7B by failing to provide a description that is meaningful and sufficiently clear to alert persons of average intelligence and education whose interests are affected by an agenda item.
Madam Chair.
Yes, Mr. Pilpel.
So-
Member Pilpel.
So as I indicated at the last meeting, I was at the subject meeting of the Ethics Commission. I spoke several times on this agenda item, including a comment where I said that the item was not properly framed for public discussion tonight, and a separate comment where I stated that it may not be proper for the commission to be in closed session. That was prior to a comment at the end that Mr. Hartz made that he stated he will file a complaint with the Sunshine Ordinance Task Force. I had no idea that he was going to file a complaint at the time that I made my comments. I don't think I should be precluded from attending a meeting and expressing my view. However, I would request to be recused on this item for those reasons and leave it to you to deal with the item. Can I so move to recuse, or does someone else have to? Nick? Someone else has to? All right, fine. I would move that I be recused from participation in
Is
this
there a
item.
second?
Second.
Do we vote on whether he recuses himself? I'm confused
Yes.
on that. I think he just recuses himself. But
No.
No,
Through the chair-
in the past, we voted on this.
through the chair, before Member Pilpel does or doesn't recuse himself, didn't Mr. Hartz want all of these items to not be heard tonight? So shouldn't we address whether we're hearing them tonight before Pilpel recuses himself, or?
That's right. We were going to continue all of these items. I'm sorry, Mr. Hartz. You've been sitting there, so I assumed you wanted to go forward, and I need to hear from you about whether you said you wanted to continue these items.
Yes, and I was sitting here because we were clearly told earlier that we couldn't discuss this until after 5:30, so I was being patient. I think that this is an objection I've raised a lot of times before. If Mr. Pilpel, especially in this first case, recuses himself, I have to get a unanimous version to win. And I think what that does is it unfairly prejudices me as the complainant, and unfairly it gives the advantage to the respondent, because all they need to do is get one person to hesitate. And even going into the second, it is basically an issue of a 6 out of 7, which is an 87% requirement on the complainant myself. It is not my fault that the members of the task force haven't been appointed according to the law. It is not my fault that the members of the task force who are appointed often don't attend. It is not my fault that the mayor's policy on attendance at commission meetings is not being followed. And therefore, basically, I'm saying this to put it on the record that I object to being placed in the situation of having to get unanimous or almost unanimous votes. And I think it really is contrary to the Good Government Guide, which clearly states that quasi-judicial bodies must give the appearance of fairness, and expecting 6 out of 6 votes or 6 out of 7 votes does not convey that.
So, in other words, you'd like to continue these matters until they're...
Yes, I see no problem with it for the simple fact that it usually takes months and months and months to get a hearing on anything before the task force anyway. So as the complainant, I'm the only one who has a potential to be at a disadvantage by letting it go even further.
Okay. So do I hear a motion to continue these 3 items?
I'll second.
Is there any public?
Discussion?
I'd like to hear
Let's
what
take
Chair
public
Washburn
comment on
has to
this.
say.
Well, we have to take public comment.
Hello, my name is Sylvia Johnson, and I've been misled in all kinds of parts, like taxi. I think it starts with the police department. And
are you talking about continuing these 3 items here?
This will be going on the continuance of this, because this has been, not right for a lot of people that are working there, and they're not understanding, because it's been but confused in a lot of parts that it's where they can it's like these religions that they got going on. Ask them to get out of there, because it's all part of how these people that work in there as the management is.
Thank you very
confused.
much. Is there additional public comment?
This is a difficult situation because there are other people that are waiting for hearings, not just me, but a lot of other people, and it's a difficult thing to just postpone it to the call of a chair, which could be any time. It puts everybody else in a kind of a holding pattern, and nobody likes to be a victim just hanging around waiting for cases to be heard. I can understand Ray Hart's point of view, but David Pilpel is here. He's going to be here at the next meeting and the next meeting and the next meeting after that. So it's difficult for other people who have cases to be heard also.
Thank you. And if there's a member Pilpel.
Yeah, I'm certainly prepared on items 7 and 8. I would just suggest in general, I actually agree with and Trudeau. I think that we have a backlog of cases. We should attempt to get through things as quickly as we can. And I would suspect that on all three of these matters that there'll either be a consensus to find a violation or there won't be. And when the task force hears them, if it appears that a single vote might change the outcome, the task force has the ability to continue the matter or rehear it. So I would respectfully oppose the motion and suggest that we attempt to go forward with these tonight. It appears that the respondents are here, and that's just my feeling.
On the
Go
motion?
either way.
Well, in the past, we've given some deference to the complainant.
It could go either way. I get that.
But Mr. Bowe raises some important points. But I'd like to hear the roll now.
On the call, the roll?
You're not going to give us your thoughts?
My thoughts on this?
Because you're the one, you vote last, so, we don't know where you are on this until you vote.
This,
really torn on
this,
this one.
yeah, this is a hard one. It really is. Good point.
A question to be considered is when do we continue this matter to? Because I cannot guarantee full membership at any time.
Maybe the July meeting. I mean, because who knows about the June meeting?
That's the other thing.
Everyone else that's in the queue.
Yeah.
When are we gonna, I mean, there's no guarantee we can do any better than we've got.
That's true. That's absolutely
Got
true. We have some seats that aren't going to be filled by the Board of Supervisors this go-round.
You're never going to get Mark Rummel's seat filled. That person doesn't exist anymore.
Well, no, there is somebody that's being, but not for next month or the month after even. Member Wolf.
Here's where my concern lies in not granting Hart's request, is that Popa would like to recuse himself from this first item. By the time we complete that first item, Member Eldon will have left because he needs to leave around 7. So basically, each of these items is going to require a unanimous vote. And Hart's argument is that is too high a threshold, and I think that's a legitimate argument.
That's why I mentioned when you two were conferring that if a single vote would change the outcome, the task force can continue the item or can rehear it. So I would suggest trying and seeing if there's consensus among all 6. If there is, great, and if there isn't, the task force has other options.
Can I respond through the
Yes,
chair?
please, Member Wolf.
The issue there is that essentially we're potentially setting ourselves up for de novo hearing redoings of these things if there isn't consensus, and then it's like, well, who wasn't here last time? And I mean, I really think we should be prepared to vote on these things, whether like we're not in unison, therefore we should push it back to next month. That has some weird concerns.
No good answer.
Okay, let's.
On the motion to continue the matter
Okay, go ahead.
to a date not yet specified.
To the call of the chair.
To the call of the chair. Member Eldon.
I did already.
Aye.
Eldon, aye. Member
So
Wolf.
I means we push it forward.
But we continue it. Continue the
Aye.
3 items.
Wolf, aye. Corporate absent. Member Pill.
No.
Pill, no. Member Haynes absent. Member Fisher.
Pass.
Member Hinsey.
Aye.
Hinsey, aye. Vice Chair Hyland.
Aye.
Hyland, aye. Chair Washburn.
Aye.
Washburn, aye.
Member
Member
Fisher.
Fisher.
Out of respect for Chair Washburn, I'm going to say aye, because I look up to her and feel that her guidance will, be the North Star.
Aye, this matter is continued to the call of the chair, and I believe the most likely date will be the meeting in July.
Okay. Yeah, there was no good solution to this, folks.
Well, we've got people in the back of the room that have been waiting for 2 hours.
Yes, I know.
They didn't need to come till 5:30.
Sometimes this meeting gets
They came late.
away from us. And I'm most responsible.
So that's item 6, 7, and 8.
Yes.
Okay.
So our first special meeting failed, I guess, noticing, that they'll be held after 5:30.
Yeah.
That's kind of
Well, at
sad.
least they didn't come at 4 o'clock.
Well, yeah.
It was for a different reason. It was continued for a different reason.
Yeah.
No.
Would you consider taking a break at this time, or would you like to move on?
Yes, please, let's take a break. So let's come back at 7. Do we have anything left to do? Just have
It was me.
this discussion. The Sunshine Ordinance Task Force is called back into session at 7 o'clock on May 4th, 2016. Mr. Young, would you call the next item on the agenda?
Next item on the agenda is item number 9, Sunshine Ordinance Task Force 2014-2015 Annual Report.
I wanted to thank Victor in particular for making my job a lot easier. And I want to apologize for not getting around to this until literally the 11th hour, or maybe even 11:45 p.m. So, and also Vice Chair Hyland, too, for his work and requesting various pieces of this to fall into place. So there are 2 copies here. There's one with my track changes, comments, and then a clean copy. And one of the cases featured is the one we heard tonight on Chief of Staff's calendar. So, Member Wolf.
I mean, it looks great. I had a chance to read over it. The only thing that jumped out at me, and it's a minor tweak, is it should actually say vice chair for seat 9 for Chris, not chair, right?
Good catch.
Yes. Vice Chair Hyland, right.
If I get promoted?
I was confused as to whether we had done something there, but yeah,
That sounds portentous.
Typos, I think I emailed this to you, my name was spelled wrong, but you got that.
And I'd also like to point out the very last page of the document I provided to you today, which is a table of the number of complaints filed against individual departments. Vice Chair Hyland suggested that this be added to the annual report, and it's interesting.
Yeah. I just thought it'd be, I think it's interesting for the departments to see how they rank, if you like. This is a list you don't want to be on as much as possible, so, and also for our own edification. And I think this goes further to, some of the things that some of the applicants talked about at the Rules Committee last week or 2 weeks ago, building a database, almost like a history of precedents and whatnot. It's nice to be able to look at this and say, oh yeah, wasn't those cases with MTA, and then look back at exactly what those were, what the topic was. And I love this to become something more for us as a tool down the road. But that was kind of the beginnings of that.
Member Wolf?
I feel like this document, the complaints filed against city agencies, I'm assuming this is all complaints, whether they were sustained or not.
That is correct.
And I feel like not identifying sustained versus unsustained complaints ends up distorting this picture. For instance, there are certain people who will frequently file complaints around specific departments, and that certainly indicates like how many Arts Commission complaints we have. The public library is another example where we have someone who's sort of a watchdog of that department. And I think that without including sustains, it sort of doesn't include that portion of the picture.
Through the chair.
Or we could have maybe some information about the number of, these represent 3 complainants or 1 complainant. That would be telling.
Well,
Through the
Vice Chair
chair,
Harlan.
I like Member Wolf's suggestion. I don't think it'd be too hard for Mr. Young to just say, violations found in 6 out of 12 cases at each.
It's not hard, but it will take some time.
It'll take some time, but I see your point there.
And also a note about, the Arts Commission represents complaints by 2 individuals, or I don't know.
Oh, actually, it may not. What was your last point?
Well,
Sorry,
we
I
see
didn't catch it.
62 complaints against the Arts Commission, and we know that this is not these are not complaints coming from dozens of people.
Yeah, it's driven by a couple.
I can put a general note regarding that. It's just to distinguish between different departments. How many are from specific individuals? It could be so different for different departments. I would have to write a summary for each department.
But through the chair, going back to that thought, even if it was through multiple people, it's a percentage of violations, I think, that are more telling.
And I don't think it'll take me as long to find that stat as our orders of determinations has all the violations listed. All I need to do is go through the order of determinations list to determine how many of this number was actually a violation was found.
If Mr. Hartz was here, he'd give us his exact batting percentage, save you some time. But I see where you're going with that. Maybe a footnote would be easier under the departments that had a lot of items saying a majority of these items were brought by a small amount of people. Something just to kind of temper, to make it we're not trying to make the department look bad here, but we are kind of putting them on notice that these cases do come up, and you need to keep your sunshine training up and people aware of what they're doing, etc. I mean, that's the purpose behind it. It's a gentle sort of reminder.
Member Popel.
Several things, and again, I'm trying to keep it brief. I don't want to get in the way of our adopting something tonight. I recognize that I could. I think we should probably adopt this. I need to do a little more work on it, so maybe if we can adopt it, giving you the latitude in the next week or so to make some non-substantive changes consistent with whatever approach we take tonight. I think whatever reporting period we're going to use should be consistent throughout, so I'm not averse to having the chart at the back, but the date range is different from the other, and I think it should track. So whenever we concluded the last annual report, starting the next day through, March 31, April 6, whatever date we pick, I think that should be the consistent reporting period throughout. I'm actually thinking if we're doing this chart on the last page, wherever it lands, I'm not sure that we need to show the different years. Maybe if we just show for the entire period how many complaints were filed and how many violations were found for each department. And I'm not averse to Vice Chair Hyland's comment. I'm not averse to having a comment on maybe the total number of unique complainants through the period. Maybe not for each individual department, but we could say that, we got a total of, 200 complaints from 72 different unique complainants. I mean, I think that begins to show the breadth and depth of what we're doing here. And I think that's the overall point, is to give anybody who cares to take the time to look at this a better sense of what goes on here. I didn't feel, to Vice Chair Hyland, I didn't feel like the Rules Committee last week really gave enough understanding or appreciation for the good and the bad over here. And I think the extent to which we can convey that in an annual report to the board, to the mayor, to other city officers would be, good. And two other things on page 2, where it's got the membership. I believe Member Hepner and I are not in general public seats, but consumer advocate for seats 6 and 7.
Give me 1 moment.
Yeah.
What seat numbers were that again?
6 and 7.
6 and 7, those were general advocates.
Consumer advocate.
Consumer advocate.
Yeah. And as I said, I think there's some other minor league typos that we can fix. On page 7, it's not under long-term issues, I guess ongoing issues. I think we should have stronger language on the unfilled task force seats to call out specifically that we've got at least the one vacancy from SPJ, and that it's important to fill that, and the ongoing issues with member Copra and New America Media. I mean, I would really call that out and not just say it's an issue. And
That's actually being resolved. SPJ is going to be taking over that appointing authority.
But I just...
They found, excuse me, Member Pillwell, SPJ found a lawyer for Mark's seat?
There is someone that's considering it, yeah.
Oh, that's like a needle in a haystack.
Yeah, well.
What about Member Haynes's?
That's being
general.
recommended. That was the subject of last week's.
Oh, that was one of those. Good.
Well,
But if they're also recommending someone to replace Member Copra, that's good too. And if that comes as a cover letter from Zandy. Okay, in any event, if we can say more than just it's a problem, because yeah, it's a problem, but it's good things don't happen until better things happen when that gets fixed. And as to staffing, I think we could say more about staffing and our issues with the city attorney. I mean, I think this is really the opportunity to lay out what our concerns are. And so the more you can strengthen this in terms of the big issues, the better.
Okay.
I think that's actually more important than the little notes from the committees, with due respect.
Right.
Although I think the notes from the committees are important.
Yeah, and I think it's good that we've collapsed that down substantially, because we used to have a lot more verbiage there that was, yeah. And maybe just listing who the most recent members are. I mean, we're referencing Member David and Member Winston. I don't know how much that helps right now. Anyway, those are my thoughts, and again, I'm willing to do some work on this. I think the main text is good, and we should try to have this happen perhaps in the next week under your signature.
Okay, I will work on strengthening our recommendations the descriptions of the ongoing issues and what we're urging them to do.
Quick question. Just looking at that, 2 non-voting seats are designated for ex officio members from the offices of the mayor and the clerk, the VOS. Has the mayor ever designated a person?
Yes.
Anyone's knowledge they have.
Yeah, but not for a very long time. There was somebody in place when I was first on the task force 8 years ago for about a year, and then that was it.
There were 2 different people that have served.
And they're
or before that, there was someone else. There have been various people over time. Don't go too far.
And that person was non-voting, right? So they were just
non-voting, right?
Right.
I can see why they wouldn't want us to keep attending. I mean, right.
I mean, that, quite frankly, that's another thing that we could add to the ongoing issues, is that although the ordinance provides for 2 non-voting members, we haven't had anyone in those seats in a long time, and although they're not voting, the task force might benefit from their experience from time to time.
Sure. I mean,
and we could follow up with letters to those offices asking that they.
Do we have room?
Yeah. We'd find room. They can. Nick will make friends. It's all good.
Well,
are you a cook? Just checking.
Anyway, I'm just.
Yeah.
Member Wolf?
I don't think that asking them to provide those 2 people accomplishes anything. Like,
all right.
We already have long meetings, and adding 2 more people to weigh in who can't even vote. We've never been at a loss of opinions in the circle. I don't see that being necessary. But I do think that calling out Member Chopra, do I have that? Chopra. have they attended any meetings in that 2-year period?
One or two.
He attended a couple, but that, like I said, that issue's being addressed.
Well, it's not being addressed. Like,
Well,
it may be being mitigated for the future, but the fact remains that we had this entire period where someone wasn't attending, and the next time someone steps down, we run the risk of this happening again. So although moving forward there may be a replacement, the issue of having that absence can never be retroactively addressed, and I think is worth including in the report.
Write a sentence. Send it to her.
Yeah, if you have any suggestions on how to put that, but we do report to the Board of Supervisors. We say this person has not attended any meetings in the past year, and they don't do anything about it.
Can I say something? Isn't Member Copra under that really, really restricted seat, which you have to be New American Media, you have to be representative of another culture, you have to be born in a month with an L in it, or, you know, I mean, isn't that just an impossible seat?
But, so, Sandy Close, who's president or executive director of that organization, has designated SPJ, Society for Professional Journalists, to be the body that recommends somebody for that seat.
But that's NAM. Don't we have to go through some whole big rigmarole? I mean, that's a NAM seat, not an SPJ seat. There's two SPJs, and then there's a CAM or NAM. Or
So I think if SPJ Member Fisher, if SPJ
Yes, Member Pilpel.
If SPJ identifies someone that meets the qualifications, recommends them to New America Media, and New America Media sends a letter recommending them, then it's fine. I mean, it doesn't matter how it happens as long as there's a letter that makes it happen.
Okay, now, did Member Copra officially resign?
No.
That might be the linchpin right there.
He is
He's
a holdover at this time. His term has expired.
So if somebody else is appointed, then he's gone.
So, I mean, the seats that we've had a really hard time filling are the two SPJs and the NAM. We always get a League of Women voter because women get things done. But
has Member Copra he didn't reapply, has he?
No.
Okay.
I would need a letter from New America Media before anything can happen.
And Holly Winston before.
Right. There needs to be a letter from New America Media. There needs to be a letter from SPJ recommending there too. Was there anything else on the report? Are we generally good with some version of this and, soon? Anybody?
So is there a motion to approve it as the amendments were, as amended?
No
Will be amended? Or do we want to continue this for the next meeting?
And second it.
I'll move that it get approved with.
The motion is to adopt the annual report as amended and authorize Chair Washburn to make final edits prior to transmittal.
so you're going to fix the typos and
Yes.
my name and all that.
And have some more information in the table,
Yes.
as we discussed.
Former Chair Washburn, so that she can still do it while she's not officially
She can do it until the new person has been
sworn in.
Sworn in.
I'll just send it all to her and have her work on it.
Well, it would fall to Chris otherwise to sign. And so any final edits that we have, we should send to you or to Victor so we can move this. So Member Wolf, if you have it, the thing that you talked about, whatever you want in.
I'm writing it down on.
Okay, cool. Excellent.
Great.
So is that where we're headed on this? Yeah?
Yep.
Okay, good.
So
There are no members of the public in the room at this time. Would you like to take a vote on that motion?
or without objection?
The motion
Without
is,
objection.
the motion is passed without objection with Member Eldon, Copra, and Haynes being absent. Next on the agenda. File number 14030, amendments to the Sunshine Ordinance Task Force complaint procedures. We should start with section 7C.
So we're on page I have an old version here, but, so I don't see a 7, I see, oh, thank you.
Page 264, is it?
I believe it is 264. We should start with, actually, I have a deletion on number 7.
So 8 should be number 7.
Yeah, they'll get renumbered.
Yes. Well, I believe it's probably a C7 and not 7C. So
263?
I believe last time we ended, we completed C6.
Right.
And any additional changes after that is what we should be considering at this time.
Madam Chair?
Yes. Member Pilpel.
Maybe we should try to do, what, half an hour on this, or see where we are after half an hour?
Or 15 minutes?
Even better. Okay. Sounds good. Can I just go back to C6 for a moment? There was a thing that's been bothering me, and I would like if we could insert it probably between B and C. It doesn't really talk about the two things. It doesn't really talk about the way the complaint committee conducts the hearing, just that the complaint committee shall review the complaint to determine whether the task force has jurisdiction, and the committee will conduct a hearing and provide a recommendation. I guess we could have something about the complaint committee procedures will be substantially similar or use the same process as the full task force for a hearing on the merits. And more so, I think that a recommendation that's made from the committee should be sort of drafted the way we do it, but we should memorialize that process, that the administrator will review the recommendation with the maker of the motion and the chair of the committee, so that it's not just we have the meeting and boom, suddenly something happens later.
So that's the way it works.
Right, but I don't think that's memorialized right now, and I think
Yeah,
we
that
should
should
make
be
it
clear.
clear. So it's essentially that the chair of the committee has some responsibility to ensure that the thing makes sense, and that the
I've
maker of the
already
motion.
implemented that practice as the two chairs acknowledge receipt and approval of the recommendations today.
Yeah, no, I'm not saying it's not happening, just that we memorialize
Yeah, we
that.
should, we should state what we actually do,
'Cause I
which is
think-
we have a hearing that's, for all intents and purposes, like a hearing before the full task force.
Right.
The chair of the complaint committee reviews the order of determination and suggests changes if needed.
And
So-
I think.
Yeah, no, that's a good idea.
And I disagree with some of these comments that we've heard, but we hear regularly complaints about the administrator and how much authority the administrator has and blah, blah, blah. I think I want to make clear that it's not the administrator that ultimately makes the recommendation. It's the committee, and it's whoever makes the motion. It's the chair of the committee, even if the administrator is preparing it. So I want to.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
No, that ought to
Victor's
be-
doing a fine job. I just. Yeah.
No,
Okay.
you're right. It
If you want to provide specific language, I'll be happy to include it.
Member Pilpel, would you do that?
Yeah, something like the administrator will review a proposed recommendation with the maker of the motion and the chair of the complaint committee. We can futz with it, but it's that
Do
idea.
you really want the maker of the motion to be involved with this?
No,
All right, with the chair of the committee. I mean, somehow I want it to just not be on Victor.
Right, well, you don't even have to mention Victor or the administrator. You can say the chair of the complaint committee will review the draft of the order of determination or the proposed, the recommendation.
I will. Would you like me to remove my name from the recommendations and put the committee chair's name on it?
Yeah, I think that would make sense. Yeah. I mean, we know how it works internally, but
There, yeah.
Yeah.
Signed off by the committee chair. The only reason I started signing them was there was such a long delay that I just wanted to move them forward.
Right.
I don't really care who signs it. It's just that the procedures should say that it's the committee chair that finally approved it. That's,
Yeah. Which is what
All
we
right,
do.
so wherever that lands, probably 6, somewhere between B and C, or C and D.
I will rewrite.
Part of B, really.
I will do a rewrite and provide it at the next meeting.
Moving on to what was 8, which becomes 7, top of 265 in the packet. We don't usually vote on an order. I mean, we did tonight because there was a proposed order. I mean, we usually just either find a violation or don't. And I'm not sure what or other directives written by the chair. Am I missing something, or is that like a weird and convoluted way of saying
they
something?
vote to adopt the order, or they decline to do so, and fine.
But usually we don't actually vote on a specific order. We usually just vote on a violation. I mean, tonight.
Determine whether or not to adopt the order.
Right, we vote on the recommendation.
That's if it's a committee thing, but either way, it's, tonight we did a rare thing and voted on an actual order. Usually we just vote on a violation and an order follows.
But can the chair?
Member Wolf.
What we're doing is we're voting in favor of there being an order of determination created. So shall vote to create an order of determination might be a way to slightly modify that sentence to meet your concerns.
Okay.
Yes, just vote to find a violation and create a order of determination.
That sounds good too.
Or and/or.
Shall vote
Yes, I will
whether to find a
I will do a
violation.
rewrite and provide it to the task force.
Okay.
The next item is my deletion of documentation.
Did that get moved somewhere?
No, I'm suggesting a complete deletion of documentation, as we are not complying with a 5 working day issue. We are accepting documents on the day of and using it as evidence. And since we are not we're not complying with this, I'm suggesting that we eliminate it.
Well, do we want to have some kind of caveat that documents received less than 5 business days prior to a meeting may be taken by the task force but won't necessarily be reviewed or incorporated because we may or may not, digest the information? I mean, I think that was kind of the intent, is that we're sort of discouraging late submissions, and I'm just concerned that eliminating anything about it opens the door for somebody to just drop 200 pages on us at a hearing, and then it kind of suggests, well, it's on the record, so it's on us. Well, that's not fair. That's not cool. Anybody? Bueller?
Well, we could leave that in, but just strongly urge for a document to ensure that a document is considered prior to the task force. It is recommended that it be received at least 5 working days before the hearing.
And we could add anything after that runs a risk or might not be fully considered.
I just worry in that the specific language says that if we don't receive it 5 days ahead of time, they're allowed to, postpone the meeting.
Yeah, I'm not suggesting doing that.
Right.
I'm not with that thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So just, I think documentation, something in there to urge people to get their documents to us so that we can review them. I don't see
We'll
any
do a
point.
revise and represent.
What if we were to simply point out that for the document to be considered in the packet for review by the task force, it must be received at least 5 working days which basically intimates that we may not read it if you don't get it to us before 5 working days, but it doesn't actually create the concerns that Victor was speaking to earlier.
Yeah, something to that effect. Yeah. Please get it to us early enough, but if you don't, nothing terrible is going to happen to us or you.
Documents that are received late may not be fully reviewed or considered.
Right. That's the fact of the matter.
Yeah, so if we can keep that sort of remnant.
Yes, I will do a rewrite. The next item on that is 10. I believe this is an addition regarding attendance at the meetings.
I have a question about this.
Yes, Member Wolf.
Thanks. So my understanding was that the complaint committee process would allow them to attend the complaint committee, and then if it appeared that this was a clear violation, the other side's like, yes, we screwed up, we'll take the violation. That complainant could choose to not come to when it appears in front of the full board. And admittedly, they're taking the chances because something could change, but I don't think they should be compelled to go to 2 meetings.
I don't believe.
Give some leeway with the unless otherwise noted, right?
Yes, I do note to them in my letter to them that they are invited but not required to attend the meeting at the full task force if there is a recommendation from the committee.
But why shouldn't we actually put that in our procedures instead of
Josh
referring to the unless otherwise noted part?
We did. Prior page 264, line 39, 6F.
264, line 39. Well, but I still think that it would probably make sense to make the language clear in 10 to reflect that.
Okay. How about just rewording it so it says at the beginning, unless otherwise provided in these procedures, the complainant and the respondent.
That's one way to fix it. That works for me.
And you could, in parentheses, include the number
6F.
Making reference, yeah.
6F. Yeah.
I do not have any.
Can we be clear in the second paragraph there? And maybe we should make that a 10A and B. Because this happened last month at one of the committees. If the complainant fails to appear without prior communication, then the matter shall be tabled. So that says under the rules that we don't have discretion unless we've heard otherwise. If they have a thing and they're a no-show, then we table it. That's making abundantly clear in writing what the policy is. Are we good with that?
May be tabled?
Well, that's why I'm saying. Do we want to allow us any discretion? Because if it shall, then we'd have to change the procedure, so.
Member Wolf?
I mean, I think that there's this weird door that we're creating where someone could claim that they had prior communication, and I don't really foresee this actually happening, but it does make me a little concerned that the discretion has been taken away with us with the shall, and then it's hinging on this prior communication, and then they say, I send this email, and then Victor's like, well, look at my email inbox, it didn't come. And they're like, look at my outbox, and I don't know. I prefer us maintaining the discretion on that instead of making it a shall statement.
I mean, this came up last week with Charles Pitts,
Mm-hmm.
Josh, right? So.
Matter may be tabled.
Might be better to take it out of your discretion. Right? I mean, then it's just something else to debate about during a meeting when you just say, oh, well, here's a shall.
Yeah, there is that too.
I believe the task force wanted to be the general policy that it should be tabled as a general policy.
And it also speaks to consistency. If the public learn that, okay, every time they don't show up, boom, it's gone.
Okay.
We create some consistency rather than, oh, well, last time, I could see the extra discussion going on that's...
I have a proposed solution. How about at the beginning of that section, which, again, I'm now thinking should be 10A and B, absent extraordinary circumstances, comma, if the complainant fails to show without prior communication, the matter shall be tabled. So the task force could say, there's some good reason here, blah, 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 but unless there's some really good reason, then it shall be tabled.
But through the chair, you've created a more nebulous circumstance than we had before, because now you've created I don't know whether your words were out of normal circumstances. What was the exact language you used?
Absent extraordinary circumstances.
Extraordinary circumstances. Right. Now we have to define what extraordinary circumstances are.
We have discretion to do that. The point is that it lays out the general principle that unless you've got, some really good reason, or there's a fire in the city and you couldn't get to the meeting and you didn't have any way to tell us, that the matter will be tabled.
Through the chair, I like DCA Cola's idea, and, in the interests of fairness to the people behind that agenda item, they can always relist that complaint. It can come back in. It's
you just want to say leave it as is?
You missed your spot and turn, go back to the bottom of the queue. I mean, I like the cleanliness of it, and it just sets.
That's fine. I mean, I was just raising because I felt we needed to work through this. Maybe we could add, though, at the beginning of the third sentence there, in that event, comma, the complainant shall be notified, da-da-da.
Mm-hmm. I think it's there.
Can we add a without prejudice so that it's explicit that they can refile?
Right.
Yeah.
Yes. I mean, they can, but okay, fine.
I think it's sort of implicit that unless we adjudicate something on the merits, that a withdrawal or whatever is without prejudice.
And just a matter of technicality, Victor, if it's reopened within 60 days, does that put it ahead of the queue of other?
That is an undetermined question.
Okay. Do we even need any of that in there?
I don't think so.
I
think there's a lot of stuff that's implicit in here that's left to the chair, vice chair.
That's kind of an internal workings thing.
Yeah.
Reopen it or start a new one.
I believe that's something that we would leave to the chair to determine.
The police commission meets down the road tonight.
Yes.
Are we, any other suggestions? Do we want to?
I think, the complainant shall be notified of action and may always, and may file a new complaint.
This is kind of exciting. We never get any protesters.
Maybe file.
Went down there, actually. Went down to
the hunger strike? I wrote
maybe
the
best language is, in that event, the complainant shall be notified of the action to table and may request in writing that their complaint be reopened.
Or may file a new complaint. Finished.
I think reopening would be good enough, as it implies that they can.
Right. We don't want people to repeat the same paperwork. So if they say, "Can you reactivate my file?"
I see. Okay. Do we?
In the next section regarding continuances, I added a quick section there that will give authority to the chair and the administrator to grant first-time continuances. The thinking behind that is, in the past, I have had to leave items on the agenda in which I received continuance late, even though I knew it was going to be granted due to circumstances. And it just gives me the authority to pull items off the agenda with the chair's approval.
I think I'm good with that. I'm just not clear. Are you saying that's with notice at least 5 days before, or regardless?
Usually it was with the 5 days notice, but even without that, sometimes it is in the best interest for me to be able to pull items off the agenda.
With the approval of the chair.
I think the problem is once the agenda is to bed, then I think it's up to the body. So
This is the notice. This is not the agenda. They receive a notice of hearing approximately 3 weeks prior.
Right.
And the agenda gets finalized about 4 days prior.
Right.
Right.
But once the agenda is finalized, I don't pull things off.
Right. So you're saying that after the notice is given and before the agenda is finalized, should you have authority to finagle things?
Yes.
I think the answer is yes. I'm just...
Don't you already?
I think it's just memorializing
That's
that.
the practice. That's
Yeah.
been the practice.
Okay.
Yes. Please forgive me, I haven't read this in a little while. Next on the list is 12, Administrator's Authority to Table and Close Files.
I'm sorry. Can you also take a look back at that 11A and 11C? Because it looks to me like...
I have not touched those at all. That is existing language.
No, I understand, but it looks to me like 11A and 11C are somewhat duplicative. So maybe if we could eliminate the duplication.
I will take a look.
Okay, thanks.
Have we, how much time has elapsed since we started this item?
It's probably a good spot to stop.
Okay.
Or do you want to just finish 12?
We can finish 12, then we're finished with that section.
Yeah.
And this is giving the administrator authority to table and close files. The first one states that if I do not have communications with complainants, I am allowed to schedule the matters before the task force to consider tabling them. After 6 months have elapsed, and at the discretion of the administrator may inform the complainant that the complaint file will be closed unless they provide confirmation of intent to attend a hearing. This is specifically addressed to certain cases we've had where there were continuous requests not to be scheduled,
Alvin
and so
Johnson and
forth.
others. Yeah.
However, we could not let the item sit indefinitely on our pending list. And then the last line is regarding notice of intent to close and notification to the complainant and at the hearing.
So under the third paragraph or sentence, that still requires the task force to vote to table a matter.
Yes.
It doesn't. None of this stuff you can futz with stuff administratively, but the action to table a matter is still with the task force.
Yes, I would take action to communicate and try to get people to show up. And if I don't believe that is a possibility, I would schedule it before the task force for tabling closing.
Under the admin report,
Mm-hmm.
presumably, or wherever. Doesn't matter.
Yes. Location hasn't been determined.
I think we've
And
done it under the admin report, haven't we?
Unless we've called it out as a separate item for Alvin
I have
Johnson.
scheduled it as a separate item just for clarity's sake.
Could be either way.
I believe that is a good stopping point at this time.
May need a little more wordsmithing, but I think the intent there is good.
Is there a motion to continue this matter as amended to the next meeting of the task force?
So moved.
Second.
Is there any public comment on this matter? This is the complaint procedures of the task force.
Continue to the next meeting, starting with item E.
This is Silver Johnson.
Where's item
And
D?
I do think that they need to look on the good side, because the good side in task force, I do think that they have been doing their job, and I do want to make sure that there's action on it, because they ain't helping our world. We don't know if our world is going to come in any time as an earthquake. We don't want any of that. So we could start this as soon as possible, because I will be in those court hearings. I'm not exactly sure how to do it, but I think what I'm going to do is go to the court hearing on management and then go work myself down. And it's the only way it's going to be, a lot more wiser on this happenings that's going on.
Thank you so much.
So to continue this to the next meeting, I don't find a section D here, so maybe if you can renumber the thing, what is E is probably becomes D.
Yes, it's been modified so many times that much of the numbering is off.
Okay, so we'll see you latest and greatest next time. Can we do that without objection?
Without objection?
Next on the agenda is item number 11, approval of minutes from the Sunshine Ordinance Task Force, February 3rd, 2016, March 2nd, 2016, and April 6th, 2016 meetings.
I have some typos from the April 6th meeting, Victor, right here. And I've submitted the same for the previous two.
Previous submissions have been implemented in the version you have before you today.
Okay.
I'm almost done with my edits. I'll submit them in the next day or so. Do you want a motion to approve with those edits?
Yes, please.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there public comment on the minutes? There being on the minutes only.
Yeah, I do have just a message with Johnson, and I do have, concern a little more minutes, so that way you can, proceed your job and learn a little more and minutes that, because I'll just be asked questions and stuff. You look at me like a stupid head, but I'm not. I seem far than what you're telling me, but it's just, in their right perspectives that the meetings that I do pertain with that question on the list precise, and I'm afraid that you just want to get you on some other thing, but I'm not trying to do that. I'm trying to make you realize a little more further in the question, because I was taught when the candidate by my father on all this, and perspectives, would help you with a little more minutes on the example.
Thank you so much.
How much?
Would you call the next? Without objection?
Objection.
That motion is passed without objection. Next on the agenda is item number 13, administrative report, communications and complaints. As you can see on the agenda, we have moved to a few format as requested with bullet points.
Thank you.
Of items listed in the administrator's report, along with a list of relevant communications to the task force.
Before we get into that, in the future on the memo, can you just add your name on the top? Because it just says subject administrator's report. Just for the future, Victor, on the. Thank you.
We have our hearing schedule this coming Monday. We have the Education Outreach and Training Committee at 4 p.m. We currently have 2 members, as Member Wolf usually can't attend Monday meetings. Is that still the case?
Yeah.
And there'll probably be a reshuffling of members shortly. But I did contact city management or city hall management. There are no additional openings on Wednesdays and Thursdays. Fridays are open.
Sorry.
That's Shabbos.
What's a Friday?
That's a Shabbat. That's the Lord's Day.
Member Wolf had asked if there were meeting rooms available on Wednesdays or Thursdays.
So I don't see a solution to changing meeting dates unless.
That's fine. And were you telling me that we're down to one item on that agenda now, potentially?
I believe we have 2 items, a follow-up regarding supervisor. I believe Member Pilpel has a copy of the draft, if he's willing to share. While he's getting that, the remainder of the schedule, we have the June 1st is next meeting of the task force, and June 14th is this next meeting of the Compliance and Amendments Committee. And I am going to suggest that we have a complaint committee in June. I don't believe I have enough items for May at this time.
Sorry.
Is that one of mine?
The complaint committee doesn't have regular members. However, you usually sit on the complaint committee.
Probably do it. Will it be early June? The earlier June, the better.
I can take a look.
Yeah.
I can take a look, but
It cannot be the last week of June. That's like
I will keep that in
the
mind.
table.
That's going to be the budget stuff. Actually, I'm not sure it's June 14th, isn't it? June 21st?
That's
Because
Flag
the
Day.
3rd.
Flag
Victor?
Day.
I don't think it's the June 14th. I think it's
Free
June
flag.
21st. It's the 3rd Tuesday.
I will double check.
Okay. And did you say that May 17th is not looking likely right now?
I don't believe it's a good idea at this time.
Okay.
The items I have for complaint committee need more vetting.
Okay.
We have a list of the new submissions for this month.
Is there anything there of interest to us? Chris, you can keep it if you want. Yeah, okay.
They're all the same to me. And then we have the list of total complaints. We increased slightly from 26 pending to 29 pending.
Just curious, Mr. Young, are we hearing complaints within 45 days now?
No.
Still not there.
Pretty rare. Occasionally, we are getting more than usual, which means we were bumping up from 1 or 2 to maybe 3 or 4, but 45 days is just not a viable possibility in our current form of operation. We would need a significant change to how we operate if we want to comply with 45 days, in which the full task force would have to meet twice a month and so forth.
Could I suggest that, regardless of how we land on officers, that we have a discussion, probably not June, but maybe July or even August, about our handling of complaints, workload, and options? I mean, I think it's a continuing issue, and we should discuss ways to deal with it.
Yeah.
There's no good answer, but we should talk about it.
I think maybe, increasing the subcommittees and thereby also the complaint committees to keep taking, the front end of the work, get that process through. Because, if we've at least heard it at subcommittee, we could make a claim that, yes, they were at least, discussed within 45 days and kind of try and hit that benchmark, wouldn't you say?
It can be discussed, but we wouldn't comply with provide a determination.
I know. Well.
Although I think the 45-day rule is primarily for public records.
Public records, yes.
So, if those are the ones heard in committee as soon as possible, and it's clear that records have been withheld, then you could possibly do something even before it gets to the full task force.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, anyway, just thank you.
I agree.
New solutions need to be discussed.
Could we make a note of that we'll talk about complaint options? Thank you.
In terms of pending workload, there's one item of concern that I wanted to bring to the task force's attention. It's item number 14095. This was an item heard approximately a year ago, in which the task force continued the matter pending a report to be submitted by Member Rumwood regarding a certain issue. However, since that's not going to happen, I was going to reschedule this item for the task force to discuss the matter and determine if how they want to proceed with this.
Can you refresh our memory on this one?
This matter was Mr. Planthold filed a complaint against one of the committees for not taking public comment after they provided they took public comment, they made an amendment, and they did not take any additional public comment. Pursuant to the codes, I believe that unless it's a significant change, additional public comment is not required. And the problem is the person who makes that determination of what is a significant change is the body itself. And I believe that Member Rummel was going to draft something
A certain
in regards
Park
to what.
Merced case comes to mind. Yeah.
It was, I don't think it was that, but it was like that kind of
Yeah,
thing.
yeah.
And it was, I forget if it was significant or substantial, and it's determined by the body on the advice of council, and it was, well, how do you figure this out? Could we maybe check with Member Rummold, see if
I have, and
he wasn't willing?
I didn't receive any answers, and
Okay.
this has just been going on for so long.
No, I
I believe we
understand.
should bring it back. As Member Rummel is not a member anymore, I don't believe we should impose on his time.
Yeah,
Well, okay.
we shouldn't.
Maybe we can warn the new suggested attorney member from FPJ that it may be something that we'll ask them to look at. I mean, I think it's a good issue. We just need somebody to take some time and write something up on it.
I was going to schedule it before a task force meeting. I believe we do have a similar case from Mr. Planthold regarding another matter. I was going to schedule them both simultaneously. And that concludes my report.
Could we go back to communications? Because I think there were some interesting bits there that we should take a moment on.
At your discretion.
Okay, so the first thing from, if I might, the first thing from the controller's office, I think, asked for an update on the civil grand jury things. I thought we had done that. Do we need to do yet another follow-up to them?
I believe this is the controller providing us a
They
report.
track the recommendations. So do we need to write up like what we did or what we didn't do, regardless of what we said we might or might not do?
We've already performed that function. We did our follow-up. I don't know of any additional items we have to address.
Well, I mean, I think on page 338 of the packet, the letter says that they want or were required to say for each of the following recommendations if it's been implemented or not and what the timeline is. And we said in our two missives to them that we would do things, it's very tiny, but that we would do things, and some of those we perhaps did, and some of those we might not have done.
This is something that we said we'd do after.
Yeah, because you'll recall that we did a first response to the
No, we
grand
did.
jury, and then we did a follow-up 6 months later.
Right.
And I think we committed to doing some things there, and I'm not sure that we followed through and did all of those things, and I think they're asking us to, be accountable
Right.
or something. And they want something by next week. Could we maybe send a thing from either you or Victor?
Victor,
asking-
if you would get me all of the relevant material, I'll take a look at it.
And I think you're implicitly allowed to respond whatever you need to do by next week.
I will try my best.
Thanks. And if the answer is that we need to do something further, let us know. And
Okay.
Whatever. The other stuff, I assume that we saw the communications. Bob Landhold was talking about the Small Business Commission minutes. Michael Petrellis had something about Member Haynes. I was also concerned the item from Roberta Boomer over at MTA on page 350 of the packet was asking that we somehow reorganize or recharacterize our follow-up discussion on the Pedestrian Safety Advisory Committee. I think, aren't we doing that next Monday at EOT?
I believe that's going to get, Mr. Planthold has requested a continuance.
Oh, okay.
However, I have been talking to the SFMTA, and at the direction of the chair of the committee, Chair Hyland, we have indicated we're not changing the original title, but we would be willing to insert additional explanatory language at the end of the title.
I mean, I think that actually sort of jogged for me. When we send something to EOT or compliance for follow-up, I think it would be helpful to have a little parenthetical note making clear what the action is that we're sending it to committee for. If it's to find compliance, fine. If it's to discuss blah, 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 whatever sort of the summary of the directions in the order of determination are would be helpful so that it frames the issue and it's not just hearing on the order, it's for specific reasons. And I think that actually would help.
That was done on this item.
Okay, but that we should do that on all items. Is that a problem?
I believe you should leave it to my
you don't need to ask
discretion.
Me. I'm out of it. I'm out of it.
I believe you should leave it to the administrator's discretion depending on the item.
Anyway,
and the chair.
That was my thought, so that the point is, if we're asking other policy bodies to make clear to the average person what the item is, I think we should do the same. And so if we have an intent to hear an item for a specific purpose, we should try to include a reasonable explanation about that with the item.
I think we attempt to do that, but this will be up to the new chair of the task force.
That lucky person.
Is there any more discussion regarding the administrator's report at this time?
No action? Public comment?
Is there any comment on the administrator's report?
None.
I haven't seen the report. I do agree with, I heard what she said on some of the report. I'm really having a little trouble understanding a lot of it, but I think I'm going to be able to soon hear a real better. Hopefully I'll work on that. But some of the advances I liked to it on there, that some of the programs that are being in store, I considered anyway. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda is item 14, announcements, comments, questions, and future agenda items.
Just two things spring to mind. Obviously, I joined in the comments earlier, thanking Chair Washburn for her service. I'm certainly going to miss her. I think we also recognize, perhaps to a slightly lesser degree, Member Haynes's contributions to the task force. I also mentioned last week at the committee meeting that Carla Johnson from the Mayor's Office on Disability is not well, and I'm very concerned about that. And once again, I wanted to suggest that we adjourn our meeting, perhaps in honor of both Chair Washburn and Carla Johnson. For those who don't know her, Carla Johnson has been the director of the Mayor's Office on Disability for the last few years, and prior to that had a long career at the Department of Building Inspection. She's an incredibly calm, patient woman who is excellent at understanding not just process, but how to de-escalate a situation, not assign blame, solve problems, and really just is a great person. And apparently she has a serious illness, and it's not clear if she's going to survive. And it's the worst news possible, because she just is a fantastic person, and I can't say enough good things about her. Member Hinsey might want to add something on that.
That was well said, and I will say that she has retired from city service, and she has, Member Pibble stated, it's not clear if she's going to, hopefully she'll pull through, but it's unknown at this time.
So do I hear a motion to adjourn the meeting?
I would so move that we adjourn in honor of both Chair Washburn and Carla Johnson. And you're invited back anytime.
Second.
Come visit.
I may well do that.
One less.
The meeting's adjourned at 8:04.